watchdogs say the world's richest man, Elon Musk, has declared war on Social Security. Tell us about this.
The interesting thing, though, is just how ridiculous it is, because it's now you have literally the richest man in the world sitting on a commission that's supposed to find trillions of dollars in savings. And, they're pretending like, oh, well, that's this $50 million program that somebody's doing that's, stupid on its face. And you're like, no, when you're talking about trillions of dollars, when it has a T in it, what they're doing is they're going to come and rob you of your Social Security benefits. That's where the money is. That's what they always do. They come after your Social Security and your Medicare. So what happened to start this latest one is Senator Mike Lee and this backbencher in the House, in a pretty coordinated way, started talking about how Social Security is bad and we need to turn it over to Wall Street. We need to wholesale get rid of it. The senator's thread was like 40 tweets of just wrong information long. The House was an interview, but it's the same thing. They're saying, hey, now that we're actually getting this done, it's time for everyone to realize that we're talking about cutting Social Security. And on Twitter, the thing that really started the news cycle is Elon Musk did one of his interesting tweets. So he is a long held believer in the fact that Social Security is bankrupting the country, that we can't afford Social Security. This is Elon Musk himself. So it's no surprise that that's where they're going. But, I have to deal with people who aren't you, Tom. The media is like, oh, out of left field, or where did this come from? Or Donald Trump promised he wasn't going to cut Social Security benefits. And I'm like, they've only got one play. As soon as we really just make peace with that, it's pretty obvious that this is what they're going to do every single time. And what's also obvious, Tom, is that the next unfortunate phase is you're going to have a bunch of credulous Democrats who are going to be like, hey, maybe I should get on this commission to have a good guy's voice on the commission because maybe there's good things. No, unless he pledges in writing, I will not cut one penny of Social Security benefits, one penny of Medicare or Medicaid benefits, then this commission is nothing more than an attack on our earned benefits.
Yeah, and what they're going to do with regard to the Democrats. They're going to go to the Problem Solvers Caucus, the Democrats who have their hand out for whoever gives them the most money. And, the banks will start showering cash on them, and they'll start going, well, maybe we should have a Medicare Advantage kind of version of Social Security Advantage. Wouldn't that be a good idea? People could put their money in the stock market and make more money than they do in Social Security. And a lot of young people will go, oh, really? What do you think?
Exactly. And maybe even all they've done is shorten that path, because it's literally the richest man in the world is chairing the commission, Tom. So when they put their hands out, it's Elon Musk who drops the bag of cash in it. He bought Twitter for $44 billion. It lost 80% of its value, but he bought an election and he owns, some significant portion of the government, which is reflected in a $100 billion increase in his personal wealth. So this is like a no-brainer for these billionaires. But again, at the end of the day, they know they need to take their money from somewhere, and that somewhere is our pockets. It's our Social Security. That's what they're coming after.
In the wake of the killing this morning in New York of the CEO of United Healthcare, they're the largest provider of Medicare Advantage programs in the United States. We have no idea who this guy was, or whether he's upset about something that involved personal stuff, or whether it had to do with professional. Who knows? But it kind of lifts the question of Medicare Advantage, I think, up a little bit. Where are we at? How much longer is this open enrollment period? I'm thinking I need to publish another one of my Look Out for Medicare Advantage op-eds. It's been a while. I think it's been a year since I've done it. And
I think publish that soon, Tom, because it's days left in open enrollment. I think the murder of an individual CEO or otherwise, we don't know anything about that. Right. What actually is the case there, but United Health, no matter what, this is the biggest player in privatizing Medicare and privatized Medicare in the insurance market outside of Medicare. The biggest benefactor from this enormous push that is going to happen, and it's going to be hard to fight against, Tom, under the Trump administration. If Dr. Oz gets confirmed, he's got one goal, and he's not a clown, like many of the other nominees. Dr. Oz is much more of a cold-blooded health insurance corporate executive, and they're pushing to privatize Medicare, and United Health will gain enormous amounts. They'll be by far and away the biggest winner from that, and obviously the biggest loser is the American people. So Medicare Advantage is going to be,
To what extent can that be done by executive action? I'm assuming that making Medicare Advantage the default when you sign up is not something that requires congressional action, that can be done simply by executive action?
Yeah, the really unfortunate thing, Tom, is that an enormous amount of this stuff, when it comes to privatizing Medicare, can be done through executive action. And the first Trump administration, they didn't know a lot of that up front, but they were educated by the corporations, really quickly on it. And so by the end, they'd had their thumb on the scale quite vigorously, and that's where you really saw the first acceleration, and we cracked into over 50%, and now we're at 54%. They're going to do that just on steroids, and we will obviously be fighting it tooth and nail. But the truth is, they're going to get a lot. But also the truth is they still can't deliver. So rural health is still going to be collapsing at an accelerating rate as Medicare privatizes more and more. And I think that is where we will find, some sort of like Senator Lankford from Oklahoma. No one's calling that guy a progressive, but he understands he's got no more hospitals left. Yeah. So because the system literally can't deliver.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free, and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. is the last day of the pledge drive. As I mentioned before, as I mentioned yesterday, we hit our 50% mark on Wednesday. We just really need you to step up. This is the last chance. We are way behind. Yeah, there's a big year coming. We really need Free Speech TV to stay on the air, and this is how we do it. So call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Today is also a very special day in that our frontline funders, this just extraordinary group of people, Andrew in Bonsall, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Brenda in Texas, Charlene in Houston, Corrine in Kimberly and Sylmar, California, Diana in Santa Rosa, Delaney in Kairos, Missouri, Jerry in Oakland, Jerry in Chandler, Arizona, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado, Mike in Tippecanoe, County, Indiana, Natasha in Los Angeles, Sheila in Grinnell, Iowa, and Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia. They put together a good pile of money, and they will triple your donation. It's a double, what they call a double match. Yesterday, if you gave $10, it became $20. Today, if you give $10, it becomes $30. Or if you give $1,000, it becomes $3,000. So call now or go to Free Speech Now. Last chance, triple match. We've got to make this a blowout day. We've got to hit these goals. You can't run a television network when you can't pay for the bills, when you can't pay for the electricity. We've got to do it. So please call now. 877-378-8669. With a $100 gift, you get a plant a tree for reforestation. $200 gift, Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which is the cookie and my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and more. With a $1,000 gift, all 10 of my hidden history books autographed by the author. But most importantly, we need to keep this network on the air. We are fighting fascism as we head into this next year. No, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And if we're going to fight fascism, we have to look it in the face and we have to take it on. As Franklin Roosevelt told America in 1940, as he was preparing us for what ultimately became our participation in World War II. Here it is.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. But we well know that we cannot escape danger or the fear of it by crawling into bed and pulling the covers over our heads. If Great Britain goes down, the Axis powers will control the continents of Europe and Asia and Africa and Australasia and the high seas. And they will be in a position to bring enormous military and naval resources against this hemisphere. It is no exaggeration to say that all of us in the Americas would be living at the point of a gun loaded with explosive bullets, economic as well as military. The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis. No man can tame a tiger into a kitten by stroking it. There can be no appeasement with ruthlessness. There can be no reasoning with an incendiary bomb. We know now that a nation that can have peace with the Nazis only at the price of total surrender.
So there you go. This is Franklin Roosevelt telling us this is how you deal with fascists, right? You take them on. You kick them upside the head. You fight. You talk back. You rally people together. And that's going to be our work in the next 4 years. And it's going to be a heck of a lot of work. And we need your help to make it happen. We need your help to keep this network on the air, to keep this program on this network. If we don't hit these goals, it's going to be not a good thing, shall we say. And so please call now. Of course, there are premiums for your gifts. Also, in addition to a one-time gift, which will get tripled essentially, like I said, your $100 becomes $300. In addition to that, we have the ability to give monthly gifts, to make an ongoing monthly, to be a sustaining supporter, a monthly donor. And again, that need not be a large amount of money, but just the fact that it's monthly is a big deal to Free Speech TV, to the management of Free Speech TV, because then they can budget. I mean, if you have no idea what money you have coming in, if your Social Security check or your paycheck were to change from month to month just randomly, how would you budget anything in your household? Well, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with a nonprofit like Free Speech TV. And because we so heavily rely on your contributions, please now go to freespeech.org and make your contribution or call 877-378-8669.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy Friday, TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak. It is the end of the week. It's the beginning of the weekend. It's Friday the 13th. I always loved Friday the 13th. I started 2 businesses on Friday the 13th. I just, intentionally, actually one of them intentionally, the first one unintentionally. It did really well, so I thought, hey, that worked out well. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about today, and of course, it's Anything Goes Friday. We have no guests. It's just you and me all day. So, whatever's on your mind, feel free to cue it up. I want to get into whether Donald Trump, the people that he has identified as his enemies, should be pardoned preemptively by Joe Biden. Also, Elon Musk, his purchase of the United States government, and I don't know how else you can describe it, is already starting to pay returns. He's getting dividends on this investment. I'll tell you about that in a moment. In the second hour of our program, why the next recession starts on January 20th or, early February. Also, more Americans than ever think the U.S. government should do health care for all, Medicare for all, or some variation of it. And in the third hour of our program, Alvin Bragg has some strategies to deal with Donald Trump. Alvin Bragg is the only prosecutor in America who has ever successfully convicted Trump of a felony in criminal court. And also, how did ranked choice voting do in the last election? We'll do a quick review of that. But I want to start out with pardoning Trump's opponents. Last night I was on Dan Abrams' show at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time on News Nation. And in fact, we opened the show, and it was a debate between me and this person, I'll just leave it at that, who was arguing that Democrats want to blow up the rule of law by pardoning the people who are in Trump's crosshairs, and that will forever prevent any investigations of Joe Biden or anybody and his crime family, et cetera, which is nonsense. The simple reality is that Donald Trump is not a normal president, and won't be, has promised not to be a normal president. If Mitt Romney was about to be sworn into the White House, I would not be having this conversation with you. I would not have written this op-ed for HartmannReport.com. And in fact, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Mitt Romney is a normal Republican, an old-fashioned Republican. The kind of guy who wants tax cuts for the billionaires, deregulation for companies, of course, who thinks that social programs, is horrified by the fact that only about half of Americans earn enough money to pay taxes. He's not concerned about how much they earn. He's concerned that, the lower income Americans don't have to pay taxes, and he does. But he doesn't want to tear down the republic. He lost an election and gracefully said, I lost. Barack Obama's, second term is here, and God bless him, and I wish him well. And he showed up for the inauguration. Mitt Romney was a normal guy. Donald Trump is not Mitt Romney. Donald Trump has said that he wants General Mark Milley executed. He said he wants to see how Liz Cheney would feel if 9 guns were pointed at her head, and if she was in front of a firing squad. He just on Sunday said she should be in prison.
as well as everybody else in the January 6th committee. Benny Thompson, the chairman of the January 6th committee, has come out and said, yeah, if he gives me a pardon, I'll take it. And I think that's true of everybody else on the committee. Now, giving everybody a preemptive pardon is not going to prevent investigations, contrary to what my debating opponent last night on News Nation had to say. It's not, you know, in fact, I fully expect that both the House and Senate will be having investigative committees that will be looking into the crimes of Democrats during the Biden administration. It's going to be a crap show. It's going to be a circus. Of course. I mean, you know, Republicans have to do this because they have nothing else. They don't want us talking about what they're doing to Social Security. They don't want us talking about what they're doing to Medicare. They don't want us talking about how they're going to gut Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act and strip health care coverage away from millions of people. They don't want us talking about how they're going to get rid of the banking regulators and dispose of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that has recovered some $20 billion from financial institutions that have ripped off average Americans. They don't want us talking about any of that. They don't want us talking about ending net neutrality, you know, with Brendan Carr now as starting in January, as the commissioner of the Federal Communications Commission. They don't want us talking about the crimes that they're committing, basically, against democracy. What they do want us talking about is, oh my God, you mean during the Biden administration that happened? And of course, that will be spun as something just, you know, way out of proportion from what it really is. And if you think I'm exaggerating, if you think this is not a legitimate concern, if you think that when Elon Musk says, my pronouns are prosecute Fauci, but he's just joking, if you think that there's no need for these preemptive pardons, then I refer you to Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden was facing some 40 years in prison. And David Weiss, the inquisitor who had been appointed by Bill Barr and Donald Trump during his last term, and who Merrick Garland stupidly allowed to continue in his job after Joe Biden was inaugurated, David Weiss was prosecuting him, and they worked out a plea deal. I mean, I'll give you the details in just a second, but they worked out a plea deal where Hunter Biden didn't have to go to jail. He just had to admit that he screwed up, that he broke the law, that he didn't pay his taxes, and that he checked the box on Form 7743, the federal form that asks if you're a drug user when you want to buy a gun. And here's what he was charged with. Millions of Americans every year, an estimated 20 million Americans actually, buy a gun and, you know, fill out the federal form and check the box saying, I do not use illegal drugs, when they are, in fact, using pot. And obviously, in many cases, other drugs as well, but pot is the most common one, the 20 million Americans using pot, because it's legal in so many states or available everywhere. None of them have ever been prosecuted. One guy, well, with one exception, one guy was prosecuted for checking the box. Now, about 100 people a year get prosecuted for checking the box, you know, as an addition to their sentence. But they are always being prosecuted for things like running guns or ghost guns or what, you know, for bigger crimes, and they're just looking for ways to keep them in jail longer. So they use the check the box thing. The one guy who was prosecuted for checking the box, and checking the box alone, although this started with a drug bust, he was stopped in his car and he was smoking pot in a state where it was illegal. It was in Louisiana. His name was Patrick Darnell Daniels Jr., and his case was overturned by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. So this is a non-crime, basically, that Hunter Biden was charged with. And yet David Weiss wanted him to go to jail for 20 years, or was charging him in a way that could, you know, that could be the outcome. That was charge number one. Charge number two was that he didn't pay his taxes for 2 years. The federal government actually has a program where if you are an addict and you don't pay your taxes, you get a pass on going to prison if you pay your taxes in full, and you pay the interest on the taxes that you owed, and it's a pretty high rate, and you pay massive fines for having, not paid your taxes. Hunter Biden did all of those things. The IRS recovers billions of dollars a year from people who didn't pay their taxes, and then when they got nailed by the IRS, they pay up, they pay the fines, they pay the interest, and everything is good. They have to plead guilty to having screwed up, but everything is good. But David Weiss wanted to send Hunter Biden to prison for that, too. So if they're going to go after Hunter Biden, who had nothing to do with politics, he was never elected to anything. He never crossed Donald Trump. He didn't investigate Donald Trump. He didn't prosecute Donald Trump. He wasn't Jack Smith. He wasn't Alvin Bragg. He wasn't Letitia James. If they're going to go after Hunter Biden, they'll go after all these other people. And so I am of the opinion that it would be a good thing if Joe Biden, President Biden, were to preemptively issue blanket pardons for all of these people who were involved with prosecuting Trump, investigating Trump, Bob Mueller, everybody on his team, the people at the FBI who raided Mar-a-Lago, Jack Smith and his team, all the members of the January 6th committee, and anybody else, and the 50 or so people on Kash Patel's enemy list that he published in his book. Pardon them all.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
What say you? 16 minutes past the hour. I want to get into Elon Musk's return on investment right after this. Stay tuned. And welcome back. Steve in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today? Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Hey, good morning, Tom. Thanks for taking my call here. I was speaking to you last week. I'd been in the insurance industry for a number of years, paying claims and things and such. It was never like that, like it is now. Anyways, I had mentioned wanted to get the wife in for her pneumonia vax to you last week. Okay. So, anyways, just a little story before that, though. I want to tell you what happened to her. The other night on Joy Reid's show, the day after you were on, or the following day, James Kavanaugh, I don't know if he's retired ex-law officer, FBI, or whatever, he's on there and he's just calling the shooter a coward. Well, what I'd like to say is these insurance companies and the CEOs and the board of directors, the whole bit, they're the real cowards by denying the claims and letting people die. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, what's the old saying? Don't commit the crime if you're not willing to do the time. Obviously, this guy was willing to do the time. He was still carrying the gun with him. He had his notebook. He basically has confessed to the crime, So, yeah.
Right. And since corporations are people, they should spend some time in jail, too, or the people that are operating them.
I'm with you.
Old Mitt Romney's talk. Anyways, my wife, she went down to the local pharmacy Monday and tried to get her pneumonia vaccine, and they tried to run it through her group insurance, and she was promptly denied. No explanation. And she was told if she wanted it, it would be $299 out of pocket, which is $300. So obviously she says no. So I came home and looked it up on the website for the CDC, and the CDC recommends people that are over 50 to get the pneumonia vax. And my wife is pushing 62. So all I got to say is these people wonder why people are mad.
Yeah.
They wonder why people are mad. There's your answer.
Yeah. Which insurance company was it, Steve?
I will say it began with a K.
Okay.
And the second name was a P.
Yeah, I get it.
I was a little surprised by that because supposedly they were supposed to be one of the better ones.
Well, and they're supposed to be fans of preventative medicine, which is exactly what a vaccine is. But, these companies are dialing back on it. And, you might try appealing it.
Yes, she's going to try and contact them to see what goes down. But
I would
I'm just
appeal
very
it.
disappointed.
Because 90% of the time, appeals are successful. Steve, thanks for sharing that story. That's mind-boggling. Thank you very much. Scott in Oakland, California. Hey, Scott, you got a quick one? I got about a minute here.
Yeah, Tom. So Jeff Bezos owns Whole Foods, so it's not surprising that grocery prices aren't going to go down. So, Jeff Bezos owning
Jeff Bezos
Whole
also
Foods,
just gave $1 million to Donald Trump.
Exactly.
To his slush fund.
Anyway, and one other quick point about one other point about the mass deportations, Day of the Dead, Dias de los Muertos?
Yeah.
It's going to tear the culture apart because they in Latino community, obviously this Day of Remembrance. Sometimes if they prepare for weeks, they give gifts, cook food, spend the day at the gravesite. It's listed in the representative list of intangible cultural heritage. It's November 1st, I believe. It's All Hallows Day, the day after Halloween. So anyway, are they gonna take out bodies out of the ground?
I doubt it, but they may use celebrations of the Day of the Dead as opportunities to look for, illegal immigrants. Scott, thank you for the call. Spot on. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com.
From Los Angeles to Columbia, South Carolina, from Birmingham, Alabama to Baltimore, universal basic income programs are chalking up proof after proof of their viability. Basically just giving people, low-income people, poor people, somewhere between $500 and $1,500 a month, no strings attached, is lifting people out of poverty, getting them back on track, getting them into solid middle-class jobs, helping their children tremendously. This works. Now, we don't have to do UBI in the United States. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have a national health care program. Health expenses are whacking a lot of low-income people. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have free college education. Education expenses are whacking people. There's a lot we could do. We can subsidize housing. We can subsidize food. We do that with food stamps. We could expand it. There's a lot we could do to benefit from this. There's a whole report about that over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
The shadows grow, the stakes are high, truth's under fire, justice denied, enemies marked for standing tall, while democracy's cracks threaten us all. Hunters the warning, the first to fall, selective justice, a political call. The game is rigged, the rules are bent, we can't stay silent, this is the moment. Pardoning Trump's opponents is a weakness, it's a stand against the dark, protecting voices that spoke the truth from the strong man's vengeful mark. It's not surrender, it's the fight for right, shielding freedom in the coming night.
Welcome back. 23 minutes past the hour. Donald Trump, well, let me start over again here. Elon Musk is, of course, the guy who bought the presidency for Donald Trump, and is also the guy who seems to think he's running America. And he, of course, most of his fortune is from this company, Tesla, which he bought from two guys who started it back in the day. Elon has not really invented anything other than, how to build a business. And he's quite competent at that, apparently, although the people over at Twitter would like to have a word with you about that. Nonetheless, one of the things that Musk does not like is the fact that there have been 9 different safety recalls on vehicles that have auto driving systems, and involving 4 different companies, including Tesla, and that 40 out of 45 fatal crashes, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 40 out of 45 fatal crashes involving these automated driving systems have been with Tesla vehicles. So what do you do when you don't like that kind of publicity? You shoot the investigators, metaphorically. So here's the headline. Donald Trump's transition team will make a recommendation that would sabotage the government's ability to investigate and regulate the safety of self-driving vehicles like those Elon Musk's company is developing. This is going to be the most corrupt administration in the history of America, and there's some competition for that, particularly when you look at the Roaring '20s, or if you look at Andrew Jackson, or for that matter, Andrew Johnson. Meanwhile, the Securities and Exchange Commission yesterday charged Cantor Fitzgerald, this is a massive international financial services firm, with violating laws related to regulatory disclosures. They have agreed to settle the charges by paying a $6.7 million fine and promising not to break the law in the future. This is similar to an $18 million settlement the Digital World Acquisition Corp agreed to pay the SEC back in July 2023. That's the company that became Trump Media. But what's interesting about the Cantor Fitzgerald one is that the guy who runs Cantor Fitzgerald, the chairman and the CEO, the guy who literally runs it, Howard Lutnick, was just nominated by Donald Trump to be chair of the Commerce Department, which will oversee these kind of things. Right. Meanwhile, Congress is trying to pass, here's one more. I'll give you the Congress story right after the break, but I just have a few seconds. The next recession starts here. Trump team weighs abolishing bank regulators. Again, here you've got, for example, Representative Andy Barr, Republican from Kentucky, and a Trump ally who's on the House Financial Services Committee and has received millions of dollars in campaign contributions from the financial sector. And he's arguing, and apparently Trump and his advisors are excited about this, plan to weaken or abolish altogether top bank regulators, including the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. This according to the Wall Street Journal. The new Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency is asking nominees under consideration to head the FDIC and OCC if their watchdogs could be eliminated and have their functions absorbed by Treasury. And they're only apparently going to appoint these people if they say, yeah, sure, kill off the agency, put me in charge of it and I'll help you. Apparently. Project 2025, of course, also proposed to, quote, merge the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the FDIC, the National Credit Union Administration, and the Federal Reserve's non-monetary supervisory and regulatory functions, by way of, consolidate, compress, and, collapse, basically. It's amazing. I got to tell you about this COSA story right after the break, and I'll pick up your calls. What's on your mind? It's Anything Goes Weekend.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Speaking the truth, the muskrat would really rather you didn't know. I'll be right back with you.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at ThomHartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at ThomHartmann.com. So check them all out at Thom. It is the last day of the pledge drive. As I mentioned before, as I mentioned yesterday, we hit our 50% mark on Wednesday. We just really need you to step up. This is the last chance. We are way behind. There's a big year coming. We really need Free Speech TV to stay on the air, and this is how we do it. So call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Today is Also a very special day in that our frontline funders, this just extraordinary group of people, Andrew in Bonsall, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Brenda in Texas, Charlene in Houston, Corrine in Kimberly and Sylmar, California, Diana in Santa Rosa, Delaney in Kairos, Missouri, Jerry in Oakland, Jerry in Chandler, Arizona, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado, Mike in Tippecanoe, Indiana, County, Indiana, Natasha in Los Angeles, Sheila in Grinnell, Iowa, and Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia. They put together a good pile of money, and they will triple your donation. It's a double, what they call a double match. Yesterday, if you gave $10, it became $20. Today, if you give $10, it becomes $30. Or if you give $1,000, it becomes $3,000. So call now or go to Free Speech Now. Last chance, triple match. We've got to make this a blowout day. We've got to hit these goals. You can't run a television network when you can't pay for the bills, when you can't pay for the electricity. We've got to do it. So please call now. 877-378-8669 with a $100 gift. You get a plant a tree for reforestation, $200 gift, Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which is the cookie, and my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and more. With a $1,000 gift, all 10 of my hidden history books autographed by the author. But most importantly, we need to keep this network on the air. We are fighting fascism as we head into this next year. No, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And if we're going to fight fascism, we have to look it in the face and we have to take it on. As Franklin Roosevelt told America in 1940, as he was preparing us for what ultimately became our participation in World War II. Here it is.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. But we well know that we cannot escape danger or the fear of it by crawling into bed and pulling the covers over our heads. If Great Britain goes down, the Axis powers will control the continents of Europe and Asia and Africa and Australasia and the high seas. And they will be in a position to bring enormous military and naval resources against this hemisphere. It is no exaggeration to say that all of us in the Americas would be living at the point of a gun loaded with explosive bullets, economic as well as military. The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis. No man can tame a tiger into a kitten by stroking it. There can be no appeasement with ruthlessness. There can be no reasoning with an incendiary bomb. We know now that a nation that can have peace with the Nazis only at the price of total surrender.
So there you go. This is Franklin Roosevelt telling us this is how you deal with fascists, right? You take them on. You kick them upside the head. You fight. You talk back. You rally people together. And that's going to be our work in the next 4 years. And it's going to be a heck of a lot of work. And we need your help to make it happen. We need your help to keep this network on the air, to keep this program on this network. If we don't hit these goals, it's going to be not a good thing, shall we say. And so please, call now. Of course, there are premiums for your gifts. Also, in addition to a one-time gift, which will get tripled essentially, like I said, your $100 becomes $300. In addition to that, we have the ability to give monthly gifts, to make an ongoing monthly, to be a sustaining supporter, a monthly donor. And again, that need not be a large amount of money, but just the fact that it's monthly is a big deal to Free Speech TV, to the management of Free Speech TV, because then they can budget. I mean, if you have no idea what money you have coming in, if your Social Security check or your paycheck were to change from month to month just randomly, how would you budget anything in your household? Well, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with a nonprofit like Free Speech TV. And because we so heavily rely on your contributions, please now go to freespeech.org and make a contribution or call 877-378-8669.
To dismantle the democracy we built by hand. He calls oppressed the enemy, rewrites the truth, turns allies into traitors, empowers the uncouth. Courts packed with loyalists, the rule of law bends. Will we watch in silence as our freedom ends? Do not obey in advance, don't fall in line. When the strong man calls, remember the signs. Question the orders, resist the dance. Save democracy, not obey in advance.
Yep, don't obey in advance. Welcome back. Congress must pass KOSA by Christmas. What's KOSA? Well, this is an amazing story. This is from after Jonathan Haidt's newsletter, Substack newsletter, afterbabel.com. He says, imagine the following situation. There's a toy that kills dozens or hundreds of children every year and harms millions more. The toy maker makes the toy available for free to any child who can reach the internet, so parents can't stop their children from playing with the toy unless they tightly monitor and control the children's access to the internet, even at school. Because parents feel so powerless, the toy becomes their greatest fear, and the vast majority want the government to compel the toy maker to remove a few of the toy's most dangerous features. Year after year, the government does nothing. Congress finally acts in a stunningly bipartisan fashion to craft a modest bill that would remove a few, just a few, of the toy's most dangerous features without restricting children's continued access to the toy. It passes the Senate by a landslide vote of 91-3 and is then sent to the House of Representatives. And then, where there's overwhelming bipartisan support for it, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, kills the bill. This is KOSA, the Kids Online Safety Act, and it would have passed. The FBI investigated 12,600 cases of online sextortion that occurred between October 21 and March 23. They identified 20 deaths by suicide directly linked to these cases. These teens would still be alive were it not for, our social media being unregulated. Snapchat gets 10,000 reports of sextortion per month, according to this article, as reported in a lawsuit, State of New York versus Snap Inc. 700,000 Snapchatters are exposed to drug content every single day, according to Snapchat. Now, if this was an actual toy, the Consumer Product Safety Commission would, or whatever the agency is, I think that's the name of the agency. Well, there's an agency that regulates toys, right? If you sell a toy, a crib that suffocates kids or a toy that kills kids or whatever, they force you to issue a recall. You have to fix it. But not with social media. So why is it that suddenly Mike Johnson, congressman from Louisiana, and his House Majority Leader Stephen Scalise, also congressman from Louisiana, why is it that they're killing this bill that could literally save the lives of American children? Not to mention the mental health of them. Why are they killing this bill? Well, it turns out this guy who just gave $1 million to Donald Trump, Mr. Zuckerberg, owns Meta. And Meta, together with ByteDance, is spending more than, according to this report, spending more than $200,000 a day in the first half of 2024 to block KOSA. But perhaps more consequentially, given that Mike Johnson, who just killed the bill unilaterally over the opposition of both Democrats and Republicans, is from Louisiana, and he was supported in that by Steve Scalise, who's also from Louisiana. Meta just announced that they're going to spend $10 billion to build an AI facility in Louisiana, their home state. I'm telling you, we have the most corrupt Republican Party in the history of America, and we are about to have the most corrupt government in the history of America. And I don't think it's going to end well for us. So, what's on your mind? Wally in Portage, Indiana. Hey, Wally, what's up?
How are you doing, Tom?
Great. What's on your mind?
Well, I think the major threat the biggest threat to our country right now is this new president wife. I shouldn't say new, but again,
you mean melanoma?
Wife.
I mean, excuse me, Melania?
Yeah, her parents were Communist Party members. I think she's an agent of the Communist Party. Her parents have lived in the White House. This is an existential threat that needs to, I mean, every American should be outraged about this to begin with.
Ivana, his first wife, her father was an agent of the KGB. I mean, he reported to the KGB on her and Donald Trump regularly. We know that now, or at least it's been reported. I don't know that Melania was at all political. I think she was just a pretty girl who wanted to be a model and came to the United States.
And that's a good front for a spy. That's a great front for a spy.
Yeah.
Because you're moving around traveling. And I think the Russians are way ahead in their spying than we think they are.
I don't think they need Melania. You've got Donald Trump calling up Vladimir Putin and saying, Vladimir, what would you like me to do for you today?
Well, but her parents are roaming the White House, roaming Mar-a-Lago, or her mother's passed away.
I mean, in his first weeks in office in 2017, Donald Trump handed off an American and Israeli spy to Sergei Lavrov and Sergei Kislyak, the Russian foreign minister and the Russian ambassador to the United States, burned a spy. In the first weeks in office, he stole thousands of top-secret documents. He asked the director of national intelligence to compile a list of all of America's spies all over the world. That list was given to Donald Trump. That list is still missing. And shortly after that list was given to Donald Trump, the New York Times reported that the CIA was freaked out because their agents all over the world were being assassinated. I mean, what more do you need, Wally? We don't need Melania here.
Well, maybe not, but I think it's an ace in the hole for the Communist Party or Social Party. I think
could be.
Plus, with her father there, while Donald's out of town or golfing, he could be rummaging through the boxes of files.
Yeah, entirely possible. I don't know that much about her family, frankly.
I see a front line on PBS about them, and they had close ties to the Russian government for decades. And I heard you mention the other day that Donald's had a relationship with Russia for decades now.
Yeah, it goes back to 86 or 87 when he and Ivana went over there. And then he came back and published paid for editorials arguing that we should pull out of NATO and stop supporting Japan.
And I think they were a catalyst pushing him to run for president.
Oh, they were. They absolutely were. And he actually went up to New Jersey and gave a speech in 87. He was thinking about running for president in 87.
You are correct. I remember that. And
incredible stuff.
I think this is all part of the plan to get Melania. She's a dedicated agent, and I wouldn't be surprised if Trump tries changing the presidential age lower so Barron can step in.
We'll see.
Seriously.
No, I get it. I totally get it. He's nepotism or us. I mean, that's his brand. Wally, thanks for the call. Barbara in Oakland, California. Hey, Barbara, what's up?
I want to say and ask a question. What large country that you know of lost their democracy but was able to get it back?
Ukraine.
Okay.
I mean, that's at the top of the list. I'd have to think. I think you could also point to pretty much every democracy in Europe. They lost them to the Nazis, and then they got them back after World War II. But if you're talking about, the Russians coming in and paying somebody, in this case it was Paul Manafort, paid him $14 million to help get Viktor Yanukovych elected as president of Ukraine. Yanukovych was a stooge for Putin. And Manafort did that, and he got Yanukovych elected. And then the Ukrainians rose up and had a revolution against that. And Yanukovych got kicked out, and ultimately Zelensky got elected president. There was another guy in the middle there. and who is, sort of democratic and sort of corrupt, but not a Putin puppet. And was it Petro Poroshenko? I'm not remembering the name, but I'm not certain of the name. But yeah, Ukraine did. So, there's hope, Barbara. There's hope.
Okay, then my point is this. The time factor that it taken to destroy it, they're robbing this country, which is us, blind, and they're taking out all the agencies and threatening the programs and funding, which we will have if we do have another election coming after Trump.
I'm with you. Yeah, no, I agree, Barbara. And this all started with Reagan, the deconstruction of America and the transferring of our assets to the billionaires and Putin.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Mary in Seattle. Hey, Mary, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Well, you beat my whole card. Everything, or one of the biggest issues I had was corporations and all of that you just laid out so well. And now, what do we do about it? And I'm like thinking ahead to the midterms, and we'll get it back because you mentioned something a while ago about how the Republicans get in, mess up everything, crash the economy. And I believe they steal the money out of this country, too.
Oh, of course.
Because we talked about how all of the money Obama was in 8 years and everybody, Trump spent more than the last 5-6 presidents altogether.
$7
and he
trillion.
did 4. Yeah, and so what I'm saying is, what do we do now? And I think one of the things is let's give them the corporations who make all their money off of us because we're such consumers and we love to go and give them our money like we're putting slop in the pig trough for these big corporations to feed off of us. Why don't we give them a Black Christmas? Let's go buy at small businesses, make somebody a Christmas gift. Half the stuff I quit giving Christmas gifts except to maybe very little kids or somebody really important because they don't even remember what they got. They don't, and I looked at what people gave me, which obliges me to give them a gift. I don't even know what they gave me. Why are we being this insane and buying all this stuff? And anyway, so that was one of them.
I get it. If I could just interject, Mary, there are a couple of platforms out there that are great resources for finding things from individuals rather than giant corporations. Etsy, I believe, is one. eBay is another. There's a company.
eBay.
There's a bunch of companies out there that facilitate
Even
those kind of
Temu.
transactions.
At this point, I'm like, I don't like Temu. I'm going to be honest. I just ordered something from them. I'm going to see what they do.
Yeah,
but even Temu, because you're getting stuff for $2, and the stuff you're getting from these big corporations are worth $2 anyway.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, you talked about the pain meds and this young man that shot the CEO, which was wrong. I think he ruined his life. I pray for his parents. And so I got a relative, she had that back stuff. They did 5 or 6 surgeries, and some of these surgeries was doctors that I knew she shouldn't have got them surgeries on her spine, and they was making money off of her, just like you got they making money. And then another doctor would come and say, that last doctor messed you up. Some of them even be crying. What they did to you is a crime. And then they would say, but I'm going to fix you. She'd go back in for more. It got so bad, they take hot irons, put it in her nerves to burn them out. Have you ever heard of that? Hot, searing, red hot metal. Stick them in your nerve roots or whatever and burn them out to keep the pain away. And she has lost her mind. I'm not going to lie. She started being mean, beating up her kids, acting crazy, and doing
pain
weird
does that
stuff.
to you.
And they got her on that gabapentin. They had her on them oxys and morphine. I'll call it heroin. They got her on that. she is not the same person anymore. And here she's giving a Christmas dinner, yelling and screaming at everybody. She's so frustrated. He needs to do, I don't know if a medical insanity plea. The medical community and the pharmaceuticals messed that young man up.
Well, they're going to have to find 12 people who are willing to send him to prison, and they may have a challenge there. They may have a challenge. Mary, thank you for the call. We'll see. We'll see. The John Dillinger of our day, as I keep saying, 49 minutes past the hour.
Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Back in 2010, when Viktor Orban took over the Fidesz party in Hungary, that party was sort of like the Republican Party. It was just a conventional conservative European political party. And he has turned it into a neo-fascist powerhouse. He pushed through he altered the nation's constitution to push through what we would call gerrymandering and voter suppression so that his party will always win. He campaigned on building a wall. Build a wall was literally one of his campaign slogans, and he did build a wall across the southern border of Hungary to keep out Syrian refugees who were fleeing the violence when Russia was bombing that country. His other two campaign slogans were, and I quote, "Restore Christian purity and make Hungary great again." Seriously, back in 2010, 6 years before Trump, there's an amazing backstory about how Viktor Orban is being cloned, essentially, in the GOP. You can find the article over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
Santa's team's on display, but
10 minutes before the hour, picking up your calls. That's what we're doing, definitely. Steve in Bellingham, Washington. Every now and then I have to look at the clock. Hey, Steve, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I wanted to disagree with you about something, but first, just say that you are my hero. I donate regularly, it's kind of a small thing, but I think that we need to broaden our definition of the word economy. I know you and also Robert Reich said that we have had a good economy under Biden. And I know by all the traditional indicators we have, but, even though employment is high, the quality of those jobs are low. Pay is low.
Income across the United States over the last 4 years, average annual income has increased by $4,000 per paycheck. Now, obviously, it hasn't affected everybody, but
I hear
that's substantial.
That confuses me because I hear that sometimes, but I also hear that we're still, over the last 50 years, way behind inflation. And they haven't raised
we're no longer way behind. We're in net positive territory now as a result of Joe Biden's actions. But it's still relatively flat, which is crazy because, efficiency or productivity, rather, has just skyrocketed in the last 40 years.
And inflation has slowed down, but the prices are still sky high.
And they're going to stay that way.
I can never afford a house. I have my own business. Medical insurance is $1,000 a month. And, I just hope they don't deny my claim. But I can't afford that. And that is, that's not usually considered part of the economy. That's a different issue. But I think most Americans think that it is, the overall cost of living. People are having a hard time getting by. And I feel like the usual traditional indicators of the economy doesn't really define it the way most people think about it. Actually, I also wanted to disagree with you about something else. MSNBC, you one time called that a progressive news channel. It's full of Republicans and ex-Republicans.
I know. I know.
Yeah,
I would say the Rachel Maddow show, the Chris Hayes show, the Joy Reid show are progressive programs, but you're right. The entire network is not progressive. And Ali Velshi is one of the very best out there. Ali Velshi, I think, does the best program on television right now. He just does a spectacular job. Him and Rachel Maddow. But yeah, I know I get what you're saying, Steve, and your disagreements are noted, and I'm not disagreeing with your disagreements. Thank you for the call, Jerry in Venice, California. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind?
Yes, Heidi Kuda hit the mark when she told you about the second Women's March that Russians went after it to, be against the Women's March. When I spoke to you last week about this Women's March.
You're talking about the proposed march on Washington, D.C. on January 17th?
Right. Well, Heidi Kuda said that after the second Women's March, Russia went after it with the fake news and stuff like that.
Right.
It was really important that she's done the investigation into this kind of, I call it the diversion.
Yeah.
That last command first in the military is the diversion.
Yeah. No, you're right, Jerry, and she's going to be on the show next week, so we'll continue that conversation.
Yeah, so I think that's just so much information that we need to, contact, as you say, our senators or whatever.
Yeah, I completely agree. Jerry, thank you. Keno in Lakeland, Florida. Hey, Keno, what's up?
Greetings on Fria's Day once again.
Indeed.
Tom, I learned a new word this week. It's called percepticide. It's killing or distorting perception of reality. I think this is a word that the Democrats could concentrate on in their new messaging, the distortion about the economy, where people thought that we had, unemployment and recession and all that, that there's the corporation, while I was on holding, you read from the book Corporate Conspiracy by Richard Belcher, where they hide all the damage they're doing, not only the supposed benefits to the economy, but damage to the environment, all this, that's being hidden. So percepticide as a new word to focus on what is happening to all these people that have voted for and been sucked in by the Republicans. Another quick comment. This week I saw a black guy was driving a car around and it says, "I voted for the felon." I don't know if that has a double meaning or what, but for people to vote for the felon is that their perception of reality is somehow really dead.
Yeah, I'm with you. Is that actually a new word, Keno, or is it an old word that was newly discovered by you?
Well, a book called Embodied Activism. It talked about this idea of percepticide. It's a new word I just learned. Cool. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Percepticide. I love it. Hey, Keno, have you ever seen Mrs. Burns' dictionary? Byrne.
No, I have not.
Look it up. You can find them used on Amazon and other eBay. Mrs. Burns' Dictionary of Unusual Words. It's hysterical. Thank you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at ThomHartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at ThomHartmann.com. So check them all out at ThomHartmann.com and HartmannReport.com. It is the last day of the pledge drive. As I mentioned before, as I mentioned yesterday, we hit our 50% mark on Wednesday. We just really need you to step up. This is the last chance. We are way behind. There's a big year coming. We really need Free Speech TV to stay on the air, and this is how we do it. So call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Today is also a very special day in that our frontline funders, this just extraordinary group of people, Andrew in Bonsall, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Brenda in Texas, Charlene in Houston, Corrine in Kimberly and Sylmar, California, Diana in Santa Rosa, Delaney in Kairos, Missouri, Jerry in Oakland, Jerry in Chandler, Arizona, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado, Mike in Tippecanoe, Indiana, County, Indiana, Natasha in Los Angeles, Sheila in Grinnell, Iowa, and Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia. They put together a good pile of money, and they will triple your donation. It's a double, what they call a double match. Yesterday, if you gave $10, it became $20. Today, if you give $10, it becomes $30. Or if you give $1,000, it becomes $3,000. So call now or go to Free Speech Now. Last chance, triple match. We've got to make this a blowout day. We've got to hit these goals. You can't run a television network when you can't pay for the bills, when you can't pay for the electricity. We've got to do it. So please call now. 877-378-8669 with a $100 gift. You get a plant a tree for reforestation, $200 gift, Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which is the cookie, and my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and more. With a $1,000 gift, all 10 of my hidden history books autographed by the author. But most importantly, we need to keep this network on the air. We are fighting fascism as we head into this next year. No, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And if we're going to fight fascism, we have to look it in the face and we have to take it on. As Franklin Roosevelt told America in 1940, as he was preparing us for what ultimately became our participation in World War II. Here it is.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. But we well know that we cannot escape danger or the fear of it by crawling into bed and pulling the covers over our heads. If Great Britain goes down, the Axis powers will control the continents of Europe and Asia and Africa and Australasia and the high seas. And they will be in a position to bring enormous military and naval resources against this hemisphere. It is no exaggeration to say that all of us in the Americas would be living at the point of a gun loaded with explosive bullets, economic as well as military. The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis. No man can tame a tiger into a kitten by stroking it. There can be no appeasement with ruthlessness. There can be no reasoning with an incendiary bomb. We know now that a nation that can have peace with the Nazis only at the price of total surrender.
So there you go. This is Franklin Roosevelt telling us this is how you deal with fascists, right? You take them on. You kick them upside the head. You fight. You talk back. You rally people together. And that's going to be our work in the next 4 years. And it's going to be a heck of a lot of work. And we need your help to make it happen. We need your help to keep this network on the air, to keep this program on this network. If we don't hit these goals, it's going to be not a good thing, shall we say. You know, and so please call now. Of course, there are premiums for your gifts. Also, in addition to a one-time gift, which will get tripled essentially, like I said, your $100 becomes $300. In addition to that, we have the ability to give monthly gifts, to make an ongoing monthly, you know, to be a sustaining supporter, a monthly donor. And again, that need not be a large amount of money, but just the fact that it's monthly is a big deal to Free Speech TV, to the management of Free Speech TV, because then they can budget. I mean, if you have no idea what money you have coming in, you know, if your Social Security check or your paycheck were to change from month to month just randomly, how would you budget anything in your household? Well, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with a nonprofit like Free Speech TV. And because we so heavily rely on your contributions, please now go to freespeech.org and make your contribution, or call 877-378-8669 and make your donation now. It's needed. Thank you very much for listening.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. You ever heard of Brianna Boston? Brianna Boston is a little old lady down in Florida who had a claim with United Healthcare. And actually, I'm pretty sure it was United Healthcare. I might be wrong, but she had a claim with her insurance company. And she called, and it was denied. And so she called up, and when, you know, to try and appeal it, and they just basically said, screw you, we're going to deny your claim. Tough luck. You're going to have to pay it, not us. And her response was, and I quote, "Delay, deny, depose. Healthcare companies played games and deserved karma from the world because they are evil." And she went on to say that she used the phrase, because that's what's in the news right now. So the Lakeland police chief, Sam Taylor, arrested her. She's being held on a $100,000 bail for terroristic threats. And I'm looking at Qasim Rashid's newsletter, Let's Address This. It's over on Substack. If you go to Substack and just plug in Let's Address This, it'll come right up. And he says, you know, what actual threat did she make? He says, as an attorney who represents women who are survivors of domestic violence, I cannot count how many times a survivor sought a restraining order against an abusive partner and could not attain it because despite past abuse and despite the new threat to bash your face in, that phrase was too vague and unclear. What makes Blue Cross, it was Blue Cross and Blue Shield she was talking to, so special that they deny a woman's health care claim and then get her arrested for terrorism because she peacefully and verbally expressed her frustration. He says, likewise, as a human rights lawyer who has also literally survived violent death threats made against me and even testified in federal court against the men who threatened to kill me, I have to ask, what about her statement as a threat? Delay, deny, depose is a common insurance statement. Brilliant. Brilliant. Meanwhile, 62% of Americans, now this is a survey that was just done by Gallup, you know, in the wake of the assassination of Brian Thompson. 62% of Americans now believe the government should make sure that all Americans have health care coverage. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to have some significant setbacks over the next 2 years. And it's going to be a really rough time. America's going to descend into darkness. There is no doubt about that. You know, it's all around us. They're crowing about it. They're bragging about it. But that said, you know me, I've always been an optimist. I think we're going to bounce back from this, and I think we're going to bounce back well. I really think the fourth turning is here, and I think that were it not for Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump would not be coming into the White House, and we would be seeing a new and progressive administration. But, you know, we'll have to wait 4 years for that. We'll all be a little older. Hopefully we'll still be around. Meanwhile, Alvin Bragg has some legal options for Judge Merchan. Of course, Alvin Bragg prosecuted Donald Trump in Judge Merchan's courtroom. Judge Merchan ruled that Donald Trump, or the jury ruled that he was guilty of 34 felonies of fraud and tax evasion and other things. And so Merchan asked Bragg, what do I do now? The guy's going to be president, and the Supreme Court says he has immunity. And the Justice Department says you can't prosecute a sitting president, so we can't act against him. What do we do? So Bragg wrote this 81-page document, and he has basically 3 suggestions. And I think they're all quite reasonable. And none of them involve just dropping the charges and walking away, by the way. The first is that Merchan should go ahead and sentence Donald Trump before January 20th. Go ahead and sentence him, and then just hold the sentence in abeyance until he gets out of the White House. And even appeals would be held in abeyance. The second is that the entire case, including the sentence, could go on ice until after the end of Trump's presidency. In other words, with or without a sentence. And the third option, which is described as the most innovative option, invokes the abatement doctrine. Typically, this is a doctrine that's typically applied when somebody is in the middle of a legal process, they're being prosecuted, or they've been prosecuted and they're in an appeals process, and they die. And so what happens here is the conviction stays on the record, even if there's an appeal ongoing. And the note in the record is made that the defendant was convicted, and therefore the presumption of innocence was removed. In all 3 of these cases, Donnie would still be a felon. So, seems like a reasonable thing. Seems like a very reasonable thing. So what's on your mind today? Let's pick up your calls here. Jim in Kansas City, Kansas. Hey, Jim, what's up? Happy holidays.
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
Good. What's up?
Can you hear me okay?
Sure. Just fine.
Okay. Over the last 2 weeks or last month, I've heard a lot of people calling in about the 14th Amendment. And you had Pocan and Representative Jai Paul. And here's the way I see it. Trump versus Anderson had nothing to do about the 14th Amendment. It was about keeping Trump off the ballot.
Based on the 14th Amendment.
Right, but here's the thing. He's not in violation of the 14th Amendment until he's sworn in on January 20th.
Correct. It's a point I keep making. Yes, I agree with you, Jim.
So if some legal scholars, Neil Katyal or Mark Elias or Jamie Raskin and them get a court case together for that, I think it should be heard again for the real 14th Amendment case, I would call it.
I agree. I agree. Although I don't think it's going to happen. Everybody's obeying in advance right now, and I can't stop it. But you're absolutely right. What the Supreme Court said was you can't remove him from the ballot because the 14th Amendment doesn't say he can't run for public office. It says he can't hold public office, and so keep him on the ballot. And I think they fully expected he would lose the election.
Well, you can't put the cart before the horse. That's, I think, unless you're a Republican now, they don't believe in hypotheticals unless it's to benefit them.
Right.
The Supreme Court, that is.
Yeah.
So Alito and Thomas can, give hints of what they need to do if a case doesn't go through like they did in the Josh Hawley's wife case about the abortion and affecting them doctors. But I think that they need to put something or have cases against him to kind of tie him up so they can't have frivolous cases on other issues. You know what I mean?
Right. I agree with you, Jim. I suspect that the Supreme Court would refuse to grant cert to a case like that because they just don't want to get involved in this because the law is so clear and because nobody in the Democratic Party is saying what you and I are saying. And so, he's just going to slide in there like a greased pig, And
what's the amendment in the Constitution for then? If that's the way they're going to.
Well, you're echoing my sentiments, Jim. I agree.
Hey, well, look, Tom, I appreciate everything you and your staff do, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for your kind words, and you know, spot on. I like I said, I agree with you. Philip in Westchester, Illinois. Hey, Philip, what's on your mind today?
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank you for your work I ran into in the Wisdom School articles.
Oh, sure.
You've got going on.
Yeah, wisdomschool.com. Thank you.
Right. And they're very informative for people who are looking for more peace in this turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
The deeper kind that allows one to stand in the face of this kind of insanity and still try to maintain peace.
Yeah, it's where I write stuff that's not political. Yeah.
Right. And it is the person-to-person contact that makes the revolution that's going to happen possible. It's going to be the people not having groceries, heat, not having services for whatever they need, medical, anything. And it's when we get to standing up for each other that we will begin to do that, and we will start to be non-corporate droids rather than, we'll be citizens of the United States again instead of corporate droids.
Yep.
I don't know how to describe the commons these days. We don't have the internet's like, how did they get word on that the Crispus Attucks died, the black guy, the first one in Lexington that died in the Commons, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We have those kinds of things happening. Yeah, like
I think the internet is a common, and I think it should be owned by the federal government, as it is in many other countries.
It ought to be the new Post. It is what the Post is. It's what the intent was.
Yeah.
The ability to reach a medium by which others can talk to others without regard to the government.
Yep. I agree, Philip, and it's been a long time. I mean, since the 1950s, since America had a robust conversation about what is the commons and what's the government's role with regard to the commons, and I think that now is the time, in particular, given that the commons is about to come under massive assault at every level by the Trump administration. Now is the time to have that conversation, and I'll be talking about it more going forward.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's the place where smart people get their news. I'll be right back with you. And welcome back. Michael in Gainesville, Florida. Hey, Michael, what's on your mind today?
Yes, hello, Tom. I wanted to talk to you and get your opinion on education. Right now, we know it's going to happen. They're going to be privatizing education based on a false presumption that competition optimizes. And I also want to add something for you to comment on, because I know you've got a background in education. I taught a 7th grade science class, and 100% of my kids got an A, in fact, A pluses. And it was strictly merit-based. Wow. And what it requires is basically just, no, students love to learn. I had to back off and realize that what I was doing was a colonialized education that's based on punishment. Competition has nothing to do with education. Yeah. I was holding out information to kids just like you would a mechanical hare to greyhounds, and for the exact same reason, to separate the wheat from the chaff. So I stopped doing that. I threw away my grade book. I made a wire basket out of chicken wire, and when the kids got 100% on something, and it was all no multiple question, it was real questions, they'd wad it up and throw it into the big wire basket, and they loved it. They're kids. Remember, this is 7th grade still. Sure. And here's what happens is instead of competing with the kids and me being the person who was the gatekeeper, I was one of them. It changed the relationship of teacher to student and student to student. They worked together to see to it they all knew the answers. They loved to learn. Right. You know, if you walk in front of a school and you hold up a book and all the kids jump out the windows, it's just like holding up a tennis ball to a room full of golden retrievers. If they all run from the room, what have you done to those children with that tennis ball to make them react that way?
Let me tell you a quick story, Michael. I was in Taiwan years ago. This This was more than 20 years ago after my book on ADHD, made the front cover of Time magazine. And I was doing research on education specifically for another book I was writing. And in fact, I wrote about this experience. And I went into this Taiwanese school, and there was this teacher, and it was like 4th, 5th grade class. And I didn't understand what was being said, but I figured out what was going on. She gets up in front of the class, and she spends about 5 or 10 minutes laying out this mathematical formula that they were talking about that day. And then she looks around the room and she says, now who understands this? There were about 40 kids in the class. It was a big class. And about 7 or 8 kids stood up. And she said, great, okay, you now teach. And so what happened was all the other kids formed little circles around these 7 kids. And the 7 kids then explained it to their peers, and the teacher just walked around and made sure that they were all getting it right. And as the kids who were sitting down came to an understanding of the issue, they stood up and participated in the teaching of the ones who still hadn't figured it out. And by the end of the hour, every single kid in the class was standing, and every single kid in the class could tell you that lesson inside out. It was brilliant.
Well, exactly. And here's the thing. We need to not accept this any longer. And I don't know what can be done about it, but it's done in Ivy League schools. We call it DEI. That's why there's so much issues over DEI and Ivy League schools. They know that those kids, they're already been approved. They know the kids can all do the work. Yeah. So 60% of them get A's when they graduate. Yeah.
Competition is always more potent cooperation is always more potent than competition. And in fact, that's how nature works. That's, your body. Everything in your body is cooperating with everything else. Michael, thank you. It was brilliant. Thank you. 21 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back with more of your calls after this. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them.
Morning light breaks through, a fresh start anew. Another day to seize with a clearer view. No need to worry about what's coming next. Just live in the now, let go of the rest.
Welcome back. 22 minutes past the hour, and picking up your calls here, Devon in Pittsburgh. Hey, Devon, what's up?
Hello?
Hi. What's on your mind today?
Oh, sorry. Well, actually, it happened earlier this week. The EPA announced that they're banning TCE, which is trichloroethylene, a solvent, and PERC, which is like a daughter product of trichloroethylene. And that's really wonderful and important and good for people, especially those like myself who grew up in Superfund sites where we were always made aware of the solvent in our drinking water. So if you happen to grow up in South Scottsdale, Arizona, yes, that's Scottsdale, Arizona, you may well have been in the North Indian Ben Wash Superfund cleanup site. Wow. And that trichloroethylene that was in our drinking water that we filled our pools with, that we showered in, that we washed our clothes in, that we drank every day, that water had a lot, pardon me, of TCE in it. And so there was a lawsuit and everything. And it's not only Scottsdale. It's actually, one of the most common found groundwater contaminants in the United States. And I met a woman once who worked for a company that did Superfund cleanups at marine bases, marine installations. Maybe it wasn't Marine, but it wasn't Army. Maybe it was Air Force. Anyway, she told me she actually thought that all Superfund sites were military sites because that's all she'd ever known. So it's ubiquitous. Yeah. And the darndest thing about this new ban on the chemical is that EPA was persuaded to put in an exception for the Department of Defense the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me amplify that. When I was 19 or 20, My doctor was my girlfriend's mother. And actually, I must have been younger than that, because by the time I was 19 or 20, I was dating or living with Louise. Must have been like 17 or 18. And I had a really painful boil. And so she knocked me out to Lancet with a thing called trilene mask. And it was a mask that you put on your face and you inhale out of, air that goes past a wick that was dipped into a little can of a solvent, which was trichloroethylene. They were using it like ether. They were using it like a general anesthetic. And it was quite pleasant. I mean, I was very, very stoned from it. And then maybe 5 years later, when I was in my mid-20s, I read that they had discontinued using trilene masks, and I basically outlawed them because they discovered that trichloroethylene was causing liver cancer like crazy. So
not only that, but the nurses, Tom, and this is documented, that were working around those triethylene masks started miscarrying their babies.
Oh, my.
And so that was one of the earliest indications. So, in fact, when EPA scientists first looked at trichloroethylene, they recommended a maximum contaminant level of 0.
Yeah.
Now, that was
it's
not
a potent
adhered
carcinogen.
to.
I mean, thank God I've survived it. Although it might have had something to do with why I got prostate cancer. I don't know, but I doubt it. Because it seems to like the liver.
The Marines at Camp Lejeune, Jerry Ensminger, helped move the legislation forward because his little girl born on the base died at 9 years old of cancer. Trichloroethylene, like I said, it's ubiquitous. But the worst part is that, DOD gets this exemption as if there's some force field that exists around the children who live on the base, as if they're not going to die from the exposure. And it's really annoying because the Department of Defense is still burning.
Well, what's amazing to me is, I was exposed to this stuff and then learned that it was a carcinogen literally 50 years ago. It's taken that long. It's taken a half a century for the EPA to ban this, if what you're telling me is correct, Yvonne.
That is correct, and they took it out of the operating rooms first because there seemed to be a connection. Then when people started dying and getting brain cancer around the plants where TCE was used, like the government electronics group at Motorola.
Yeah, it was used to clean circuit boards too. I remember that.
Exactly. Right.
I got to run, Yvonne, but thank you. Thanks for the information. That's fascinating, and brings back grim memories. 27 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Fair and only slightly unbalanced. I'll be right back with your calls. Stay with us.
It is the last day of the pledge drive. As I mentioned yesterday, we hit our 50% mark on Wednesday. We just really need you to step up. This is the last chance. We are way behind. There's a big year coming. We really need Free Speech TV to stay on the air, and this is how we do it. So call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Today is also a very special day in that our frontline funders, this just extraordinary group of people, Andrew in Bonsall, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Brenda in Texas, Charlene in Houston, Corrine in Kimberly and Sylmar, California, Diana in Santa Rosa, Delaney in Kairos, Missouri, Jerry in Oakland, Jerry in Chandler, Arizona, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado, Mike in Tippecanoe, County, Indiana, Natasha in Los Angeles, Sheila in Grinnell, Iowa, and Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia. They put together a good pile of money, and they will triple your donation. It's what they call a double match. Yesterday, if you gave $10, it became $20. Today, if you give $10, it becomes $30. Or if you give $1,000, it becomes $3,000. So call now or go to Free Speech Now. Last chance. triple match. We've got to make this a blowout day. We've got to hit these goals. You can't run a television network when you can't pay for the bills, when you can't pay for the electricity. We've got to do it. So please call now. 877-378-8669 with a $100 gift. You get a plant a tree for reforestation, $200 gift, Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which is the cookie, and my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and more. With a $1,000 gift, all 10 of my hidden history books autographed by the author. But most importantly, we need to keep this network on the air. We are fighting fascism as we head into this next year. No, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And if we're going to fight fascism, we have to look it in the face and we have to take it on. As Franklin Roosevelt told America in 1940, as he was preparing us for what ultimately became our participation in World War II. Here it is.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. But we well know that we cannot escape danger or the fear of it by crawling into bed and pulling the covers over our heads. If Great Britain goes down, the Axis powers will control the continents of Europe and Asia and Africa and Australasia and the high seas. And they will be in a position to bring enormous military and naval resources against this hemisphere. It is no exaggeration to say that all of us in the Americas would be living at the point of a gun loaded with explosive bullets, economic as well as military. The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis. No man can tame a tiger into a kitten by stroking it. There can be no appeasement with ruthlessness. There can be no reasoning with an incendiary bomb. We know now that a nation that can have peace with the Nazis only at the price of total surrender.
So there you go. This is Franklin Roosevelt telling us this is how you deal with fascists, right? You take them on. You kick them upside the head. You fight. You talk back. You rally people together. And that's going to be our work in the next 4 years. And it's going to be a heck of a lot of work. And we need your help to make it happen. We need your help to keep this network on the air, to keep this program on this network. If we don't hit these goals, it's going to be not a good thing, shall we say. And so please call now. Of course, there are premiums for your gifts. Also, in addition to a one-time gift, which will get tripled essentially, like I said, your $100 becomes $300. In addition to that, we have the ability to give monthly gifts, to make an ongoing monthly, to be a sustaining supporter, a monthly donor. And again, that need not be a large amount of money, but just the fact that it's monthly is a big deal to Free Speech TV, to the management of Free Speech TV, because then they can budget. I mean, if you have no idea what money you have coming in, if your Social Security check or your paycheck were to change from month to month just randomly, how would you budget anything in your household? Well, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with a nonprofit like Free Speech TV. And because we so heavily rely on your contributions, please now go to freespeech.org and make your contribution, or call 877-378-8669 and make your donation now. It's needed. Thank you very much for listening. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. So when a political party embraces violence as a political tool. What is the end game? Where does this lead? How does this work out? How does this end? We've seen this in other countries historically. In fact, we tend to refer to them as fascist countries. We saw it in Germany and Spain and Italy in the 30s. We saw it in the 60s in Chile with Pinochet. It appears to be happening now here in America as well. We have Republican politicians calling for violence, calling for civil war, preaching violence and not to mention the former president, Donald Trump, basically begging for violence to defend him. And how does this work out? It tends not to work out well. And there's a whole piece laying out all the details of this over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled, "What is the End Game for a Party of Violence?" Check it out.
Only light is breaking, a new day has begun, another chance to make a difference under the rising sun.
Back 35 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls. Here's on the Anything Goes weekend, Ziggy in Oneonta, New York. Hey, Ziggy, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I'd like to talk to you about the next recession that starts next month.
Okay.
And I was having a conversation with my family over Thanksgiving, trying to prepare them ahead of time for what we can do personally because of financial things I think may happen next year. Mm-hmm. And we got into this discussion on this. And like my daughter had mentioned, which I thought was profound, she says, "Do you mean the government's going from merely corrupt to very corrupt?" And I said, "Yeah, exactly. That's what we're talking about here." And, we've done things in the past, like buy government I-bonds for the kids and things like that. And I said, I don't know if we want to do that because the full faith and credit of the American government is in jeopardy right now. Yeah. And I really don't know where we should place our finances because under the same token, the banks may have problems, and having cash may not be good when inflation starts going out of sight, and they want to devalue it. So I don't have a good answer to that, but I just want to make all my family members aware and thought I should share that with you because I saw that was on your list of items. And one of the other things I said we can do right now is anything that you think it's a fairly major item that will be hit by the tariffs next year, in the next 6 months that you're planning on buying, maybe pick them up now so that way they'll be cheaper, but that's only a short-term plan on that. So that's kind of how I'm trying to deal with it, but I don't have a good answer for everyone. So part of it is we have to wait to see what starts happening, and then we may have to react instead of act early. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what to do. There's a couple of people that whose opinions I really respect in the financial, investment realm. We've had some of them on this program in the past, and we may do that again in the future. And generally, what they're all telling me is, don't panic. The system is fairly resilient, and in fact, many of the things that Trump is proposing will make corporations more profitable. So if you're talking about, if you're talking about investments or the stock market, which is not the economy, and that's an important point to make. If you're talking about that, then it's possible there won't be a crash. I'm skeptical. Every single Republican president since Ronald Reagan, when they put in, and actually you could go all the way back to Herbert Hoover, when they put in massive tax cuts, they get a recession. It happened to Reagan. It happened to Bush. It happened to Trump. It happened to Hoover. You do tax cuts, you get a recession. Eisenhower raised taxes or maintained high taxes, and no recession. Well, actually, he did have a recession in 56, I think it was. But
actually, go ahead.
Well,
finish your thought, please.
I was done.
Oh, okay. Well, my concern is that the reason why the stock market is going up, or one of the many reasons, as Larry talks about all the time, is the quantitative easing. And these companies aren't doing anything new or innovative, and the CEOs are just sucking money out of it. Yeah. And it's going to come to a point where it's just going to have to stop.
Well, it has.
And when I'm talking about,
he's been doing quantitative tightening now for the last year and a half, I think.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. And I'm also thinking
they're selling back into the marketplace those stocks and bonds that they had purchased. So, the American economy is the most robust economy in the world. And
I realize that.
And Biden has made massive investments in our economy. And the majority of those investments are not going to did not show up this year. The majority of those investments are showing up next year and the year after because they're large construction projects that go through a 1 or 2 year permitting process. So, we're going to see a huge economic stimulus coming from Biden that Trump, of course, will take credit for. So I'm just not convinced that the sky is about to fall.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, unless Trump decides not to send them because those people are in the wrong states, among other things.
Well, except that over 70% of all the benefits of both the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure bill legislation are benefits accrued to red states, even though they have smaller populations in the blue states.
Right.
Because cities tend to keep their infrastructure together, and it's the rural areas that have been falling apart for decades. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yes.
I have
Anyways,
reached out.
I thought I'd throw that out there because I know you were talking about making it a topic today.
Yeah, I reached out. In fact, I reached out yesterday to a fellow I know with an investment firm in New York that does really good work. Several people I know invest all their money with them, and asked if he wanted to come on the show, and he's talking to his associates. But we'll see. We'll see. Ziggy, thank you for the call. Good talking to you. Arthur in Monterey, California. Hey, Arthur, what's up? I love Monterey, by the way. Such a beautiful town. What's on your mind? Arthur? Watching Free Speech TV in Monterey, California? Going once? Going twice? Roger in Seattle. Hey, Roger, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you through KBCS, which is a fundraising campaign, and can I put a couple plugs in for it?
Oh, yeah. If KBCS is doing a fundraiser, and most of our nonprofits are probably in a fundraising drive right now, please support them. Please support them.
KBCS is B is in Birmingham, C is in Carolina, and S is in South for our red state listeners and viewers, I guess. But the reason I like them is because of their bluegrass plus their national native news regular morning spots. So I'm guessing those are the two unique features it has of any station in the country.
Plus, they carry this show. Plus, they carry all 3 hours of this show live. God bless them.
Yes. I don't know if other PBS stations can afford to give that much time away to Thom Hartmann, but maybe you can subsidize them. And
we do. We give it. We give it to them for free. The show is. We do not charge our affiliates a penny for this show. None of them. And our nonprofit affiliates, when they ask, I do fundraisers for them. I'll record liners and promos. I'm a big fan of our nonprofit affiliates, and of course our for-profit affiliates. I record advertisements for them. So anyhow, Roger, that's not what you called about, is it?
Not as good as Susan Stanberg, but you'll do.
Thank you.
All right. Had to pull your leg a little bit.
I get it.
So I'm lobbying for the Longview. I was a Boy Eagle Scout and of the currently named Scouts BSA, but I was also in what is now called Venturing, which back in the Middle Ages was called Explorer Scouts.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And out here in Seattle, they used to have an Air Scouts, but I guess they dropped that because, it's probably too expensive for the BIPOC community. Anyway.
It's probably too expensive generally.
Well, how much is a plane going for these days if you want your general aviation license, huh?
Well, you can pick up a decent plane for about $20,000.
Oh, yeah. Hey, chump change, right? When you're a billionaire.
No, I mean, if you've got, I'm talking about, a 20-year-old Cessna 150, but, if you've got a bunch of people who are getting together to buy a plane, that's not outrageous.
Well, hey, everybody's got to have their, wealthy side of the tracks to help them do that, even if it only is $20,000.
Yeah, I get it. So what was the point you wanted to make?
The long view that Martin Luther King suggests, the arc of justice is long, but it bends towards justice, or some paraphrase like that.
Yep.
I think what we need to do is prepare for 12 years, not just 4 years, but look at that as part of the squaring of the circle. I don't know if you knew that John Paul Jones, a local Native American architect, finished up the National Native Museum in Washington, D.C., but he included, or maybe it was the original architect, included the idea of squaring the circle that goes into this arc of justice that Martin Luther King talked about, so that if you look closely at the curves from the outside, look like curves on the building, they are made up of straight, I don't know, like foot-long, maybe 2 foot long bricks, so that is sort of like the ups and downs of a long arc that
I've seen it. I've been, that museum is one of my favorites in the Smithsonian, the Museum of the Native Americans. It's really worth visiting D.C. for. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, I also recommend the cafeterias there.
Yes.
Even though after COVID they had to cut back on their
they've got
selection.
great Native American foods. You're absolutely right. Also, the African American Museum that my friend Joe Madison works so hard to bring into being is spectacular in D.C. It's just amazing. Roger, I got to run, but thank you for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Exposing the con in conservative. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back, Norma in Montgomery, Alabama. Hey, Norma, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I am worried about the inauguration, which I told my chiropractor yesterday is probably going to be a coronation. And I feel like we are in the lull before the storm.
We are.
And I think, yes, and I think that we're in a great deal of trouble, and I don't know about everybody else, but I'm scared, and most people I talk to are scared also. But I think that, in my personal opinion, that when Trump lost in 2020, his brain went over the edge, and in my personal opinion, he's now mostly insane.
I think it's the prosecutions that drove him nuts. I think that was just a grift, but I think that when he had to sit in court and was considering, and when he was dragged into a jail to be booked, suddenly it all got real for him, and I think that's when his brain broke. But I agree with you, Norman. His brain is broken.
And I think that what we've got is he keeps saying, I did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong. And it sounds to me just like the abusive husband that says, see what you made me do?
Yep.
He hits her and says, see, you made me do this. If you'd listen to me, do what I tell you, I wouldn't have to do this.
Yep.
And I feel like that is what's coming, is that this coronation, he can do anything he wants according to the Supreme Court. And I wonder if these Republicans don't understand that he could even, since he has total power, get rid of Congress if he doesn't like the way they treat him. He could get rid of the Supreme Court. And it would depend on how much our leaders in this country are going to put up with this abusive man destroying the country, stealing every penny the country has for himself and his family, and doing whatever he wants to, not caring whether or not what he does would also bankrupt the billionaires. If there's no money in the country, there's no jobs, there's no food, there's no housing, and the whole country is in total chaos. The billionaires, they can rob us blind, but if we protest, we're violent. And so he can do anything he wants to. And a lot of people I know are terrified, and they're, our age group, because they have lived in a sane society. And I don't know how we're going to handle this, and I think that someone should stand up and be ready with the 25th Amendment, because he can throw the Constitution in the trash.
Yeah.
He can do that if he wants to. And I don't think anybody's looking far enough down the road to understand just how bad it can get.
Yeah.
And Is there anybody sane in the Republican Party that's going to be willing to stand up and face him? Isn't there anybody that has the spine, and that's not the word I want to use?
Well, right now, the guy that all eyes are falling on is John Thune, who's going to be the Senate Majority Leader. He's going to be, the Mitch McConnell going forward. And
who?
John Thune, Thune. He's the senator from South Dakota.
But he doesn't. He's not going to do it.
Well, we'll see.
He's not good.
We'll see. He's been making mixed noises.
Don't they understand that he can throw all of them in jail?
Yeah. I think they do understand that, and I think that's why they're rolling over, or in part. The biggest reason I think that they're rolling over, Elon Musk is spending millions of dollars in Iowa right now to promote Pete Hegseth by way of slapping Joni Ernst upside the face and telling her, or upside the head, and telling her that she's going to have a primary challenge. Norma, I got to run. I share your concerns. Thank you for the call.
From all of us here on the Thom Hartmann Program to all of you, happy holidays, and thanks for listening.
At the North Pole, there's a man with a list, checking it twice, seeing who he'll assist. Santa's been listening, the words getting clear. He tunes to Thom Hartmann this time every year. Does Santa Claus listen to the Thom Hartmann Show? He's learning about democracy and all we should know. When leaders are dirty, the coal starts to flow. Does Santa Claus listen to the Thom Hartmann Show?
Well, I think so, yeah. 51 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Claire in Chicago. Hey, Claire, what's up? Claire in Chicago, listening on WCPT. Pod is open, right? The button is on. Okay, going once, going twice. Holly in Marshall, Missouri. Hey, Holly, what's on your mind today?
Oh, I'm listening to the last couple of callers. I hope I don't scare them more. But anyway, this morning on NPR, they played a clip of Plump Trump making a speech about how we're going to be the biggest crypto economy in the world.
Right.
And he went on to talk about Bitcoin and crypto, and I really don't understand it. But then
just look up Dutch tulip bulbs, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about cryptocurrency. But back to you, Holly. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, he and his son, John Jr., are manufacturing their own Bitcoin, which is worth $0.015. And the whole thing, I'm at a certain age when I'm starting to plan what to do with my money to leave to certain things, and I don't know really what to do or to take this seriously or what. But I'll take my answer off the air.
Bitcoin is not a currency. It is a commodity. It is something that is created by a computer program. And, it takes apparently a few $100s worth of electricity to produce a Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin now is worth $100,000. And so you've got these Bitcoin mining operations going on all over the world, and which is just basically they're just running computers wherever electricity is cheap, and they're producing Bitcoins, and they're getting very, very rich. And it reminds me of the South Sea as I recall, stock thing, or the Dutch tulip bulbs. In the 1700s, Dutch tulip bulbs went through a phase, a year or two, where everybody wanted to have them. They were the investment vehicle. The value, you could buy a house with a handful of Dutch tulip bulbs. I mean, they just exploded in value. And when the moment came, the tail end of, just before the crash, and this is kind of like this. Excuse me, I sneezed. It may come again. It reminds me of the story that Gloria Swanson told me when I was having dinner with her in her apartment in New York City back in the 80s. And she told me about her one-time lover and then the guy who robbed her, but blind, basically, her agent, Joe Kennedy. and how he was one of the few people who made it through the great crash in October of 1929 with all his money intact. And the reason he did it was because he sold everything. He got out of the stock market and just before the crash. And he told her that, and this story, he's obviously told a lot of people this story because you can find it on the internet. But when she told me, it was the first time I'd heard the story. He told her that the reason he got out of the market was because the shoeshine boy was giving him stock tips. And he figured if the shoeshine boy is buying into the market, that means that everybody's in the market, which means we're in a frenzy. We're in a, there are words to describe it, and they're escaping me at the moment, but basically a buying frenzy. And it's going to crash. These things don't last. And that's what is going on with Bitcoin right now, in my opinion. So if I owned Bitcoin, and I don't, but if I did, I would be selling it right now. Claudia, Newport, Oregon. Hey, Claudia, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Oh, I've got to bring you back to the start of your show when you were talking about you were talking about diversions from Republicans and the GOP.
Right, the things they'll do so we don't know how they're robbing us, you're talking about.
Oh, exactly. Well, look at the oldest thing, magic tricks that it goes on to, I mean, it's forever. You look, don't look at their face, look at their hands, don't look at that hand, look at the other hand, blah, blah, blah. So I think in this Trump era, it's more like that. Another thing magicians do is scare you. They want to scare you.
Oh, they divert your attention. But the main thing is, watch my right hand while my left hand is, picking your pocket.
But also, when they're scaring you, you're not looking at the other thing. So anyway, they're scaring us. But look at what is so boring and so whatever. We're not looking at that. That's the key. That's what we got to look at. One other thing I just need to mention is the AI threat. And the AI threat is not like a robot. It's not like your toaster's coming after you. It's behind the scenes in the cloud, okay? People don't realize it's not like movies.
Well, you want to see the AI threat right now. I mean, United Healthcare is using, according to the media, is using AI to deny people's claims instead of human beings.
Exactly. And that's only one aspect of it. Yeah. Okay? A lot of it, AI also needs all the small nuclear institutions that they're trying to build. Okay,
yeah, so it consumes a lot of electricity, just like Bitcoin. Right. Claudia, I got to run. Thank you for the call, and thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. We'll be back on the other side of the break. I want to get into how did ranked choice voting do. So stick around. We'll be right back with that and your calls, of course.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. the last day of the pledge drive. As I mentioned before, as I mentioned yesterday, we hit our 50% mark on Wednesday. We just really need you to step up. This is the last chance. We are way behind. Yeah, there's a big year coming. We really need Free Speech TV to stay on the air, and this is how we do it. So call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Today is also a very special day in that our frontline funders, this just extraordinary group of people, Andrew in Bonsall, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Brenda in Texas, Charlene in Houston, Corrine in Kimberly and Sylmar, California, Diana in Santa Rosa, Delaney in Kairos, Missouri, Jerry in Oakland, Jerry in Chandler, Arizona, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado, Mike in Tippecanoe, County, Indiana, Natasha in Los Angeles, Sheila in Grinnell, Iowa, and Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia. They put together a good pile of money, and they will triple your donation. It's a double, what they call a double match. Yesterday, if you gave $10, it became $20. Today, if you give $10, it becomes $30. Or if you give $1,000, it becomes $3,000. So call now or go to Free Speech Now. Last chance, triple match. We've got to make this a blowout day. We've got to hit these goals. You can't run a television network when you can't pay for the bills, when you can't pay for the electricity. We've got to do it. So please call now. 877-378-8669 with a $100 gift. You get a plant a tree for reforestation, $200 gift, Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which is the cookie, and my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and more. With a $1,000 gift, all 10 of my hidden history books autographed by the author. But most importantly, we need to keep this network on the air. We are fighting fascism as we head into this next year. No, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And if we're going to fight fascism, we have to look it in the face and we have to take it on. As Franklin Roosevelt told America in 1940, as he was preparing us for what ultimately became our participation in World War II. Here it is.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. But we well know that we cannot escape danger or the fear of it by crawling into bed and pulling the covers over our heads. If Great Britain goes down, the Axis powers will control the continents of Europe and Asia and Africa and Australasia and the high seas. And they will be in a position to bring enormous military and naval resources against this hemisphere. It is no exaggeration to say that all of us in the Americas would be living at the point of a gun loaded with explosive bullets, economic as well as military. The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis. No man can tame a tiger into a kitten by stroking it. There can be no appeasement with ruthlessness. There can be no reasoning with an incendiary bomb. We know now that a nation that can have peace with the Nazis only at the price of total surrender.
So there you go. This is Franklin Roosevelt telling us this is how you deal with fascists, right? You take them on. You kick them upside the head. You fight. You talk back. You rally people together. And that's going to be our work in the next 4 years. And it's going to be a heck of a lot of work. And we need your help to make it happen. We need your help to keep this network on the air, to keep this program on this network. If we don't hit these goals, it's going to be not a good thing, shall we say. You know, and so please call now. Of course, there are premiums for your gifts. Also, in addition to a one-time gift, which will get tripled essentially, like I said, your $100 becomes $300. In addition to that, we have the ability to give monthly gifts, to make an ongoing monthly, you know, to be a sustaining supporter, a monthly donor. And again, that need not be a large amount of money, but just the fact that it's monthly is a big deal to Free Speech TV, to the management of Free Speech TV, because then they can budget. I mean, if you have no idea what money you have coming in, you know, if your Social Security check or your paycheck were to change from month to month just randomly, how would you budget anything in your household? Well, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with a nonprofit like Free Speech TV. And because we so heavily rely on your contributions, please now go to freespeech.org and make your contribution, or call 877-378-8669 and make your donation now. It's needed. Thank you very much for listening.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to Hour 3 of our program. How did ranked choice voting fare in the 2024 elections? Well, not so well. Legislatures in 5 states banned it. It was just crazy, right? They just came out and said, no, you may not have ranked choice voting. This is Florida, Idaho, Montana, South Dakota, and Tennessee. There was also anti-ranked choice voting bills introduced in Ohio and South Carolina, but they never made it out of committee. For some reason, Republicans think that ranked choice voting hurts them. It probably has to do with Alaska being represented in Congress by somebody who's not a MAGA head. And voters in 4 states, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, and Oregon, rejected referendums on adopting the new system. Although, let me say, here in Oregon, the state adopted ranked choice voting. The city of Portland tried to do or do I have this backwards, Sean? The city of Portland did ranked choice voting, and the state rejected it. Is that right? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Trying to remember my ballot, and the ranked choice voting on the ballot was, as I recall, just Oregon. So the state turned it down, which I was disappointed by. I voted for it. I'm a fan of ranked choice voting. And generally, I'm a fan of anything that Leonard Leo hates. And Leonard Leo is very upset about ranked choice voting, as is Cleta Mitchell, as is the American Legislative Exchange Council. ALEC has come up with several pieces of anti-ranked choice voting legislation that Republicans around the country are dutifully, Republican state legislators are dutifully submitting into their state legislatures. Ranked choice voting, if you're not familiar with it, of course, is where you are given 4, 5, 6 you rank the candidates, right? You pick your first choice, then your second choice, then your third choice, then your fourth choice. And if your first choice doesn't win a plurality, then they get dropped, or if they're below a certain threshold, they get dropped, and your second choice becomes your vote, essentially. And if your second choice doesn't hit the winning mark, then your second choice gets dropped, and your third choice becomes, and it's kind of cool. I'm a fan of it, and but it wasn't a good year for ranked choice voting, largely because of opposition from the GOP and Leonard Leo and his friends. So what's on your mind today? Jolie in Chicago. Hey, Jolie, what's up?
Yes. Hi, Tom. A couple of weeks ago, you spoke to data scientist Stephen Spoonermore. Correct. And during the interview, he felt compelled by the results of the election to submit to Madam Vice President Kamala Harris a duty-to-warn letter. I was wondering if you've heard back from him. Do you know whether or not she responded? And also, I was wondering, do you think there's a possibility that she would need us to start a GoFundMe to help cover the expense for the recount?
Well, so far what's happened, Jolie, is that Stephen Spoonermore has walked back his bullet ballot concern and said, looks like actually maybe that didn't happen. He has started a newsletter over on Substack that you can find and subscribe to. Just plug his, go to Substack.com and plug his name in. And he's been talking about election integrity and his concerns about the election, but he has not yet presented any evidence of any kind of fraud. I hooked him up with Greg Palast, who's one of the nation's great investigative reporters, and Greg looked into it and couldn't find anything. And Greg, of course, is concerned about purging of voting rolls. He's of the opinion that had Republicans not been authorized to purge voting rolls by the Supreme Court, that we would not be looking at President Trump. And Greg is finishing up another movie right now about the theft of Osage Indian oil back in the day. It's a follow-up to Leo DiCaprio's movie. And so he's working on that right now, but he also has been, following up on these things. His movie, Ballot Bandits, has done really well, and it's circulating in Democratic circles. But as of the moment, we have no smoking gun, to the best of my knowledge, other than the voting purges, which are, everybody knows about. So, and Republicans are very proud of. So, sorry. If anything happens, I promise you will be the first to know. I will report it here. Jolie, thank you for the call, and happy holidays to you and your family. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's up?
Hey, I keep repeating it over and over again, but I think the Federal Reserve is the reason why Donald Trump is in office, is headed for office. Yes, I know the Supreme Court did their dirt also, and then you had the media did their dirt. But I have watched the stock market for years and years and years, and when the Dow is doing well, the incumbent president gets good approval ratings. And when it goes down, like it did when Donald Trump was president in 2020, the incumbent doesn't get a second term.
Correct.
And then I still say that you can find the website where it shows the Dow gains per president, and you'll see that somebody was manipulating the Dow so that it matched Donald Trump's failed presidency. And so when they gave Joe Biden the Dow that Donald Trump earned, Joe Biden and the Democrats did not get a second term. And I think that's the reason why those people who were walking in to cast their vote at the last minute, they're thinking, my 401k is dropping. My stocks that I own are dropping. This does not look good. And they felt bad, and they went in there and they voted for the clown. So
I thought the market was pretty much up through October and November.
I think it's 5 days in a row just before the election. It started falling.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. And then the day after the election, it shot up 1,500 points.
Yeah, I remember that. So you think that was when Jerome Powell stopped his shenanigans?
I think that's when he did it for one day. And when you look at at what happened when Biden, and since that 1,500 point jump, the TV talking heads are running around talking about the Trump effect. So they're saying that 1,500 points was because everybody was happy that Donald Trump became president. I don't recall anybody dancing in the street like they did when Biden won.
Yeah. Or Obama.
After Trump won. But it's mainly Biden. As soon as we found out that Biden was going to be president that Saturday, they were playing the Party in the USA all over the country. Sure. It was even in Europe they were playing it. Yeah, everybody was just rejoicing.
I know. I remember.
Nobody did that.
And I remember
when
when Obama was elected, the day after the election was called in 2008, in November of 2008, on this program, I said, everybody in the United States, please don't call into the show, and we're just going to keep the lines open for international calls. And literally for an entire hour, and I hope we've got that show archived someplace because it was just amazing. For an entire hour, people from all over the world called into this program, and many of them in tears, that a black man who had campaigned as a progressive had just been elected president of the United States. It was a big deal. And
so we get rejoicing when the Democratic president wins. Somehow Donald Trump, who was running around claiming that his crowd size was an indication that he was going to win, well, Harris had far bigger crowds than he won the debate. The Democratic Party put out numbers that we've never seen before. Biden saw record job growth, and so far to this day, every month he's seen job gains.
Yep.
And somehow all the leading indicators that the Democrats would win, it didn't work.
Well, it's because the majority of Americans believed we were in a recession when we went into the election. Yeah. This is the power of right-wing media, Larry. It really and truly is. Larry, thank you for the call. I always appreciate hearing from you. Thank you so much. It's 15 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Anything Goes weekend here. I'm picking up your calls, and I'll be right back with you. And welcome back. Tom in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Well, I got a number of things for you, okay? I just want to let you know I thank you for taking my call, and I made a donation today for you.
To Free Speech TV?
Yes, absolutely.
Good on you, Tom.
Absolutely,
Good on you.
All right.
They need it.
Well, yeah. But I want to talk about, I've got a couple of things. First of all, the way I look at the status of the Republican Party, it reminds me of a quote from Dwight Eisenhower back on March 6, 1956. If a political party does not have in its foundation and the determination to advance a cause that is right and that is moral, then it is not a political party. It is merely a conspiracy to seize power.
Yep.
And that's the way I see the Republican Party today.
I agree with you. I've used that quote before.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. Yes, and that is today's GOP. Dwight Eisenhower was, when he was nominated by the Republicans, everybody thought he was going to be a Democrat. But it was the moment was that a Republican was probably going to get elected. We had had 20 years of Democrats basically, and so he decided to run as a Republican. But he was really a centrist. He was really a middle of the road guy, and did an excellent job of running this country in many regards. I mean, he had some major failures, Operation Wetback, his continuing support of segregation, but in many other regards, he did a very good job. So.
The other thing I'll just mention real quick is a statement here. Basically, here in these United States, no one person is above the law unless you run for president of the United States and win. This is still true, even if the person was convicted of a crime, but not sentenced due to the person running for president and won. The rule of law is paramount in a democracy and needs to apply to everyone.
I agree.
Now, there's a quote here from William Gladstone: "Justice delayed is justice denied." And I also have another quote here that I come across, and maybe you know who the author is. The quote says this: "Not only beware of electing a bad president, beware of those who got him there, and along with those in his cabinet."
Yeah, I don't know.
I come across it, but I don't know who the author was.
Yeah, I don't either, Tom. I've not heard it before.
You don't either? Okay.
But it's a legitimate concern. I mean,
Oh, it's exactly it is. And this, I just also.
Yeah, and this is what has happened to the GOP. It started in '71 when Lewis Powell laid out his memo that basically said, here's how billionaires can take over the Republican Party. And, Charles Koch and David Koch jumped in with both feet, and they've supported all kinds of stuff that has become basically the infrastructure of the GOP. And not just them. I mean, there was the Mellon family, there was the Bradley Foundation, there was just a whole bunch of these billionaires and their heirs who essentially took over the Republican Party. And now you've got a billionaire cabinet. Trump has got almost a dozen billionaires in his cabinet. His cabinet's going to be worth $340 billion so far. And whereas Joe Biden's cabinet, the entire collective net worth of Joe Biden's cabinet when he became president was 1/10 of $1 billion, a little over $100 million, $113 million. So there you go.
Yeah.
Tom, I got to run, but thank you for the call. It's 19 and a half minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's Anything Goes Weekend here on the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where despair is not an option. Stay with us. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com.
When I was a little kid, my grandmother had a piano, and I loved to play it. I was incompetent, but I was figuring out all kinds of stuff. And then I kind of got away from it, and, went to school, and things got busy, and just lost track of it. Well, now there's this fascinating new study out of the University of Geneva, Switzerland, that is making me think maybe I should go back and learn the piano. What they found was that they took a group of 132 healthy older adults, retired, 62 to 78 years old. Half of them learned the piano, half of them took music classes without learning the piano. And what they found was that those who learned the piano actually had the strongest increase in their memory, in their mental competence, their mental faculties. Those who took the music classes also did well, but learning the piano was a huge step. So check it out. There's a whole long rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
I'm dreaming of a bright Christmas where every culture shares delight, with tables full of joy and laughter, and every heart feels warm tonight.
It's 21 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Claire in Chicago. Hey, Claire, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I was calling to find out your thoughts on the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. According to Professor Lawrence Tribe and many other judges, they say that right now Trump is in violation of this amendment, and the only way that he cannot be sworn in with this intact, and the only way he can move forward is if 3/4 of the Senate and House reverse it. What are your thoughts about this? I mean, is this true? And if it is true, why is nobody enforcing it or talking about it?
It is true, and I completely agree, Claire. What happened was the Supreme Court, when 3 different states, Maine, Colorado, and some other state, all knocked Trump off the election rolls, off the ballots. The Supreme Court said you can't take him off the ballot. The 14th Amendment doesn't address elections, basically. What the 14th Amendment says is if you engage in insurrection against the United States, you can't serve in any military or elected capacity. And so Trump is not yet in violation, but he will be when he's sworn in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of authorities. And the 14th Amendment does say that you can solve that. You can let somebody serve with this vote. I thought it was 2/3, maybe it's 3/4. I'd have to look up the 14th Amendment. But I just don't think it's going to happen. I think everybody's going to ignore it. The Democrats are, it would require the Democratic Party to raise hell about it, and they're not doing it, which is disappointing to me.
They just,
Go ahead.
Are they that cowardice and that much of a, no spine that they would let a fascist like Trump take over when they have an ability to make him go away?
Apparently. Yeah, and that's in fact, I've been rolling around in my head that the op-ed that I should probably write for Monday is, where is the leadership of the Democratic Party? Where the hell are they? Where, make it like an open letter to the California governor, Gavin Newsom. Why don't you step up, sir, or somebody, anybody? We need a loud voice coming, and voices, obviously, but at least somebody needs to take on a leadership role in the Democratic Party.
If you could just each day from now between the election encourage people to call their members of the House and Senate. And I've written 6 letters to the White House about this. Yeah. And I'm really, really thinking if there's a remedy to stop him, do it. Do whatever it takes.
I agree. I completely agree. By the way, if you send a letter to the White House or to Congress, it takes 6 weeks to get there because they've got to run them through anthrax testing. So the best way is to call. The White House comment line is 202 202-456-1111. And you can call your members of Congress, both your House and Senate. It all goes through the same switchboard. The congressional switchboard is 202-224-3121. So once again, the White House comment line, 202-456-1111, and the congressional switchboard, 202-224-3121. And also, sometimes it's even more effective when you call the local offices, the in-state offices of your members of Congress and your senators, rather than calling their D.C. office, because that way they know that you are one of their constituents. So in Illinois, you have Chicago-based offices for whoever is your member of the House. It's probably Jan Schakowsky, and for both of your senators. So go for it. Claire, thank you. I completely agree with you. David in El Paso, Texas. Hey, David, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I'm concerned about the possible deportation squads that may be coming up next year that we're going to encounter. And the reason for this, and I wanted your thoughts on that, is within the week after the election, I saw on the news, and unfortunately I can't recall the state or the city that this took place in, but apparently there were men who were inquiring with their local law enforcement about possibly joining Donald Trump's deportation squad.
Several of the armed militias, the white supremacist militias in America, have come right out and said that that's their goal.
Yeah, really. That's very concerning, because you're going to have overzealous people in these squads, perhaps racial profiling, and it's just going to be chaos. It's just going to be chaos.
Count on it.
And exactly. And if there's pushback, here's my other concern. If there's pushback, which I expected will be, would this be an excuse to declare martial law?
Yes. And Donald Trump really wants to declare martial law. I think the experience of President Yoon in South Korea might have chastened him a little bit. He hasn't been talking about declaring martial law ever since Yoon tried that and got slapped down. By the way, the South Korean parliament just held a vote a couple days ago, and the impeachment of Yoon, this was the second vote to impeach him, failed by 3 votes because his party is still substantial and his party has decided that they're going to support him for fear that, the Democratic Party in South Korea would end up, if they had a new election, would end up winning, because Yoon has so badly sullied the reputation of the South Korean, the PPP party, which is, their version of the Republicans. David, thank you for the call. I share your concerns. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's Anything Goes Weekend here on the Thom Hartmann Program. What's on your mind? We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with you. It is the last day of the pledge drive. As I mentioned before, as I mentioned yesterday, we hit our 50% mark on Wednesday. We just really need you to step up. This is the last chance. We are way behind. There's a big year coming. We really need Free Speech TV to stay on the air, and this is how we do it. So call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Today is also a very special day in that our frontline funders, this just extraordinary group of people, Andrew in Bonsall, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Brenda in Texas, Charlene in Houston, Corrine in Kimberly and Sylmar, California, Diana in Santa Rosa, Delaney in Kairos, Missouri, Jerry in Oakland, Jerry in Chandler, Arizona, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado, Mike in Tippecanoe, Indiana, Natasha in Los Angeles, Sheila in Grinnell, Iowa, and Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia. They put together a good pile of money, and they will triple your donation. It's a double, what they call a double match. Yesterday, if you gave $10, it became $20. Today, if you give $10, it becomes $30. Or if you give $1,000, it becomes $3,000. So
Call now or go to Free Speech Now. Last chance, triple match. We've got to make this a blowout day. We've got to hit these goals. You can't run a television network when you can't pay for the bills, when you can't pay for the electricity. We've got to do it. So please call now. 877-378-8669 with a $100 gift. You get a plant a tree for reforestation, $200 gift, Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which is the cookie, and my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and more. With a $1,000 gift, all 10 of my hidden history books autographed by the author. But most importantly, we need to keep this network on the air. We are fighting fascism as we head into this next year. No, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And if we're going to fight fascism, we have to look it in the face and we have to take it on. As Franklin Roosevelt told America in 1940, as he was preparing us for what ultimately became our participation in World War II. Here it is.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. But we well know that we cannot escape danger or the fear of it by crawling into bed and pulling the covers over our heads. If Great Britain goes down, the Axis powers will control the continents of Europe and Asia and Africa and Australasia and the high seas. And they will be in a position to bring enormous military and naval resources against this hemisphere. It is no exaggeration to say that all of us in the Americas would be living at the point of a gun loaded with explosive bullets, economic as well as military. The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis. No man can tame a tiger into a kitten by stroking it. There can be no appeasement with ruthlessness. There can be no reasoning with an incendiary bomb. We know now that a nation that can have peace with the Nazis only at the price of total surrender.
So there you go. This is Franklin Roosevelt telling us this is how you deal with fascists, right? You take them on. You kick them upside the head. You fight. You talk back. You rally people together. And that's going to be our work in the next 4 years. And it's going to be a heck of a lot of work. And we need your help to make it happen. We need your help to keep this network on the air, to keep this program on this network. If we don't hit these goals, it's going to be not a good thing, shall we say. And so please, call now. Of course, there are premiums for your gifts. Also, in addition to a one-time gift, which will get tripled essentially, like I said, your $100 becomes $300. In addition to that, we have the ability to give monthly gifts, to make an ongoing monthly, to be a sustaining supporter, a monthly donor. And again, that need not be a large amount of money, but just the fact that it's monthly is a big deal to Free Speech TV, to the management of Free Speech TV, because then they can budget. I mean, if you have no idea what money you have coming in, if your Social Security check or your paycheck were to change from month to month just randomly, how would you budget anything in your household? Well, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with a nonprofit like Free Speech TV. And because we so heavily rely on your contributions, please now go to freespeech.org and make your contribution, or call 877-378-8669 and make your donation now. It's needed. Thank you very much for listening. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio, and tag you're it.
I really can't stay. It's cold outside. Trump won't go away. Liberals, you've nowhere to hide. His tweets are so grim. He's just warming up again. The chaos is great. Your outrage is late. The courts are his toys. Liberals, it's cold outside. He silences voice. Democracy's just his right. The middle class.
Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. David in San Francisco. Hey, David, what's on your mind today?
Oh, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I first of all want to thank you for running through that Barbara Honecker list of the people that Oliver North apparently had killed.
Oh, did that book report play during the break?
Yeah. Oh, so that wasn't something you did live today?
No. We our commercial stations do news and sports for 6 minutes at the top and bottom of every hour, and our non-commercial stations have to have some content. And so I read a book report, and I was reading from Barbara Honecker's book apparently, and we've got 150, 200 of them that I've done over the years that are in rotation. And in fact, the radio side and the television side get different book reports because they're done differently. But that's what it is.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and I don't hear those during the break, so I don't know what you're talking about. But I do remember reading Barbara Honecker's book. So.
Yeah, well, it runs through this long list of people who mysteriously died when Oliver North was being investigated and they were putting him up on trial.
Yep.
All of a sudden, some very important witnesses died, including the CIA director, Bill
William Casey. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and in fact, I think he succumbed the night before the testimony.
It was the morning of his testimony, and in the CIA office where he was a CIA director, he had been he ran Reagan's campaign, and he was involved in cutting the deal with the Iranians to hold the hostages, and he had a seizure. And they shipped him off to Bethesda, to the Walter Reed, to the hospital. And this was, just an hour before he was supposed to testify. And he had told, his lawyer, Milton Gould, had said that he was going to fully testify and he was going to blow the lid on the whole deal. And they removed the part of his brain, the left temporal region of his brain, Broca's region, that controls speech. They effectively cut his tongue out. And then about 6 months later, he died from complications from the surgery, or a few months later. I don't recall how long.
Well, I call a lot of stations, and I was fortunate enough to catch Oliver North on one of them just, 6 months or more ago. And I asked him point blank, do you take personal responsibility for the crack epidemic in America? And boy, did they slam down the phone. And they said I was so rude for asking him a question like that.
Oh, my goodness, Dave. How dare you?
Yeah. And you remember the right-wingers have always been yammering about personal responsibility.
Yeah, I'm guessing he did not answer your question.
Oh, no, he didn't. He just kind of gave a little harumph.
Yeah.
But, the real reason I called, Trump is in a heck of a pickle right now. And the fact that you've done a lot of studying of, the progressives of the past, or the, what do you call them, the populists. Mm-hmm. And their demand for gold. Well, Trump is in a hell of a fix because his people who demand gold are going to be competing against his ability to keep the American economy strong.
Not to mention the people who are demanding Bitcoin. I mean, this is the new kid on the block here.
Right.
And both a gold standard and a Bitcoin standard, or even the U.S. calling Bitcoin a legitimate currency, could lead to a massive crash. I mean, gold would restrain the economy. That's why Nixon got us off the gold standard.
Right, yeah, and it's all based upon somebody's view of whose value is worth more.
Exactly.
And I've been listening to these gold broker ads for years, and, in the past, people like Ron Paul, America's about to crash, the economy's about to crash, buy gold, gold, gold. Well, now they've actually got one that says, well, the poor Russians and Iranians can't trade in U.S. dollars, so you better buy gold.
Yeah.
So they are in a hell of a fix because they're going to have a civil war about whose value is whose.
Yeah. We used to have gold companies advertising this show, and we stopped doing it because it became pretty clear to me that, basically they were selling at retail and buying at wholesale. What they say, we'll buy it back, and it was mostly coins rather than just bullion. And I've always been concerned about gold as an investment. There's a whole bunch of downsides to it and risks. But on the other hand, I remember when gold was $200 an ounce, and it's now $2,300 an ounce, I think, or something like that. It's huge. But I still, we will not take advertising from gold companies any longer.
Yeah, good for you. Just to wrap up, just to wrap up, in 1968, I'm a baby boomer, so I remember 1968, when the minimum wage was $1.60, and an ounce of gold was $32.
Yep,
and it
35.
It took you exactly 20 hours at minimum wage to buy an ounce of gold. So if we were to take today's ounce of gold, and I haven't looked at it, but it was closing in on what, 3,600 or
is it that high?
2,600.
I don't know. I haven't looked in a long time, David. I'm sorry.
Well, basically what I'm leading up to is that if you were to divide the ounce of gold by 20, you would have what the proper minimum wage would be for the baby boom. And so divided by 20, last time I looked, it's over $130 an hour minimum wage.
Which probably reflects the increase in productivity since the 1960s. We've all seen that graph, where productivity goes straight up and wages are straight flat. The other thing to keep in mind about Bitcoin, gold actually has an underlying value. It has industrial uses. It has jewelry uses. It is in limited supply. Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin is determined exclusively by the marketplace, by what people are willing to pay for it. And that's why I keep saying Bitcoin is like the Dutch tulip bulbs. They didn't, the intrinsic value was very, very small. At least there was some intrinsic value with the Dutch tulip bulbs, but it was what do you call it? They would after a couple of years they would rot. So they would, it was fleeting. But anyway, David.
Well, when you start looking at the idea that these tech giants want to buy the nuclear power plants. And the power plants are what is needed to create the Bitcoin, wasting electricity to create a fake currency.
I know, it's crazy.
Crazy. It becomes a vested interest that they waste electricity in order to justify their
And
value.
now Don Jr. and Eric are going to have started a Bitcoin company. So, a brand new grift coming out of the Trump family. Get ready. David, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Great to hear from you. Carol in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Hey, Carol, what's up?
Hello, Tom. It's been a long time. I've been really, really busy.
Oh, well, that's
and
good.
You have, too.
Busy is good. Time flies when you're having fun.
It's good to hear that Mark's going to come back for a visit. I was glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first thing, I wondered if your viewers know that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are the same thing.
Probably some don't. Bitcoin is one kind of cryptocurrency.
I know, but it's all electric. How do I say it?
Yeah, it's digital. It's a digital currency. Yeah. And
yes,
I'm reluctant to call it a currency. It's a digital asset that can be bought and sold.
That's right, using up a ton needlessly of electricity.
Correct.
People need to know that.
And the other thing that's going to blow this apart is Google last week successfully tested a quantum computer. And a quantum computer can do computations literally millions of times faster maybe billions of times faster than our current computers. And when the first quantum computer comes online, which will probably be in the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to see one of the first uses is going to be to generate Bitcoin, and it is going to collapse the Bitcoin market because, you know, back to you, Carol.
I just wanted to say, too, I've read all about the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, whatever, and the number one goal your viewers need to know is their number one goal is to get dollars. They want dollars.
Right.
That's their whole goal.
That's
so
correct.
They're going to try and pull in with a Ponzi scheme, get you in, and they get your dollars, and they're out.
Yep.
So people need to know that.
Yeah.
That's the first reason I called. And then the second reason I wanted to call, because it's been, can you pick me up at the end of the break here?
No, but if you can say it real quick, I'll give you 15 seconds.
Okay. I wanted to say that this is your fundraising week. And if every single person, like I'm a member and I'm a monthly donator, if every single person called 3 or 4 people, which I have this week, and they're all members, monthly donators, your thing would be over.
I'm out of time.
To Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
That was so considerate, Carol. We'll be right back with more of your calls on Anything Goes Weekend. Stick around. And welcome back. Bobby in La Puente, California. Hey, Bobby, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. Hope you guys are doing okay.
So far, so good.
Shout out to Louise. Yes. Louise, thank you for the music. Vivian and I enjoyed the family. So
great.
DJ Louise, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Tom, you had a report about the Proud Boys being pardoned, Trump, okay? And I told Mateo, this is why, in my opinion, they never ban assault weapons. Maybe they had it planned, who knows how long, okay?
Well, it's something like 40 million of them in circulation now, so it's going to be a real challenge, even if they could ban them.
Exactly. Remember I mentioned where I grew up in El Monte? I mentioned Mateo, El Monte boys, 1800s. They were vigilantes going around shooting people like me. So history repeats itself, okay? And that's what Trump intimidates to scare people. I grew up in this garbage, Tom. We had the Nazis, remember I mentioned, ran them out, okay? It's part of history I didn't even know. People want to research out there, check out El Monte in the 1800s, El Monte, California.
Yep.
So, and again, Tom, I used to watch Westerns. Again, crooked politicians, they have their goons. So, again, it repeats itself. Greed, the Republican Party is an evil party. Believe me, they had nothing to give. Eisenhower, okay, give him a break. My dad voted for him because, you know, he served in World War II. But after that, you know, Democrats. So.
Well, after Brown v. Board, you know, Eisenhower actually tried to do some good stuff, and it's one of the reasons that many Republicans, toward the end of his administration, were calling him a communist. So what can you do?
I honored him. My dad supported him. FDR, mention FDR. If you talk bad about FDR, I turned my back. He respected. Everybody respected him.
Yeah.
John Kennedy. You go to Mexico, John Kennedy.
Yeah.
Honest to God. So anyway, Tom, you guys have a holiday. One more thing. There's a movie called 3-part Exterminating All the Brutes for the audience. Exterminating All the Brutes. It's emotional. It tells the history of this country. And you mentioned gold, the lust for gold. That's why they came here. Anyway, trespassers. Trump, you're a trespasser.
There you go.
Tom.
Bobby, thank you. Well said. And happy holidays to you and Vivian. Thank you. Merry Christmas to y'all. Patrick in Seaside, California. Hey, Patrick, what's up?
Hey, Tom. On October 7th, Monday, Joy Reid basically revealed to me and the nation, anyone who was watching, that unlike the Soviet sleeper cells of the 40s, 50s, and beyond, and the Nazi sleeper cells, the South Afrikaner fascist, racist billionaires, the unholy trio of Thiel, Sachs, and Musk, have been living amongst us for decades, like in broad daylight. I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were, because no one has brought up that if they successfully replace the U.S. dollar with crypto, which crashes 200 times more frequently than the stock market itself, whether you have $500 in your bank account or $500 million in your bank account, if the dollar is gone, is your money worthless? I mean,
it would be, but it's not going to happen.
77 million Trumpers voted for Trump, trying to own the libs, and we'll find out that they ended up owning themselves. Yeah. That will happen to the unholy trio too. What happens to our wealth if the dollar's gone and it's crypto in its place?
Yeah, that's not going to happen, Patrick. The dollar's not going to go away. What they're talking about doing is having the government back crypto, so when the speculators get screwed, the government will bail them out. That's what they're trying to do. Patrick, thank you for your call.
Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us.
Turn the dial, tune in, and you'll find a voice of reason for the open mind. On Lefty Talk Radio, we speak the truth about the American dream for me and you.
Welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. Ron in Hamilton Field, California. Hey, Ron, what's up?
I'm going back. I heard something earlier about contamination and individual bioaccumulation, and that takes me back to the early 90s when a friend of mine was the facility manager for Hamilton Air Force Base, Hamilton Army Airfield, north of San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And he toured me and a group of people. We looked at an area which nothing grew except rose thistle, that dried-looking substance. Mm-hmm. And we reported on the contamination from the Air Force Base, which was some of it was piled into the landfill, which was over an underground stream that fit right into the bay. At any rate, our campaign from that point was to get the site cleaned up before 600 homes and I think 1,200 homes were planned. Right. And we went through all sorts of procedures. But from that, I learned about the substance of bioaccumulation from the dioxins that, 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T.
Yeah, that's what happened at Love Canal.
Yeah, and that situation came me to become very aware and looked at food product under our project, Global Garden Projects for students at that time. And now when I'm hearing the president put out, not the former president, Trump put out a word saying that we're gonna take the poisons out of food. And that campaigning, and I fully well know that the food companies argue that they have to put certain ingredients in. When you look at organic food, and now the government allows low levels of substances to go into it because at a low level it's not harmful, but without talking about the bioaccumulation in the fatty tissues and eventually triggering in buildup to diseases, including cancers. So what I'm curious is why don't we get on that somewhere and really talk about why, in one hand, we'll feed you, and on the other hand, we'll take care of you once we've contaminated you to the point of illness.
I'm with you, Ron, and I think it's important to remember that when Trump was president before, the Environmental Protection Agency and I believe the U.S. Department of Agriculture wanted to ban one of the most toxic pesticides out there. And forgive me for not remembering the name of it, but
glyphosate? Was that glyphosate or no?
No, not glyphosate. This was something far worse. This was something that is a severe neurotoxin that poisons farm workers in particular, but also through bioaccumulation. What you're talking about poisons all of us. And they had actually banned it. It's been banned in Europe for a decade, and Trump unbanned it because he got a big donation from the industry that makes it. So get ready. More of that is coming. Ron, thanks for the call. Alfredo in Mountain View, California. Hey, Alfredo, what's on your mind today? Alfredo? Going once? Going twice? Okay, Susie in Vaughan, Washington. Alfredo's usually pretty good about that. Hey, Susie, what's up?
Hey, I just wanted to tag along with that woman about calling earlier. I did that personally before Thanksgiving, and I must have called 15 people in one day and have been calling others since.
Hang on just a second. You're talking about calling your elected representatives?
Okay. Yes.
About what?
And what I did, I called them, and first thing I did is I said, thank you for everything you've done for us. Thank you for what you're going to do for us in the future. But where did everybody go? I feel as though the lights were turned off, the drapes were pulled, the doors were locked, and the rest of us are just hanging here going, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be losing all of our stuff, us old folks, in the next 4 to 6 months if things go our way. And I will personally step up and be the Democratic representative of the whole country if they want, but somebody's got to get fired up. I asked OAC, I called Dick Durbin, Adam Schiff, my own governor, Newsom, the whole shebang.
Where is the Democratic leadership? I am with you, Susan.
Yes.
I am completely with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying it. Good on you. Jeff in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hey, happy Friday, Tom. Perfect timing to your question about where is the Democratic Party leadership. And as America is about to enter, in your words, a long period of darkness, it makes me think of the Washington Post motto that darkness dies, or that democracy dies in darkness. But I think a more apt aphorism for these times, and to your point, is that democracy dies in silence, the kind of silence that the Post demonstrated by failing to endorse Kamala Harris for president, and the kind of silence coming from the top of the Democratic Party right now. So please write a Hartmann report on that. And for the next 4 years, Tom, it's going to be on all of us to keep speaking up and speaking out anywhere and everywhere to keep fascism from settling in. In my opinion, silence is complicity and silence is approval. So long live the Thom Hartmann Program. And finally, Tom, I want to refer everyone to Michael Moore's Substack page today, since healthcare is the topic of the week, obviously. He has a manifesto against the for-profit health insurance companies, and he's offering his film Sicko for free. And just one factoid from his piece today, he says, we have 1.4 million people employed to deny healthcare in this country, and there's only 1 million doctors in the entire country. So that tells you pretty much all you need to know.
Yeah, it really does. And Sicko was a great movie. I remember when that came out, and it created a minor furor and gave a lot of energy to the Medicare for All movement. But then we just kind of moved along, and it's you've got this. What's so ironic now is this guy Whitty, who is now the chairman of the company that owns United Healthcare. And he's, going on TV and whatnot, talking about how, we're going to become compassionate, and you're right, the healthcare system isn't the greatest, and we're going to listen carefully. The guy is British. Britain has a national healthcare system. There's no big insurance companies administering British healthcare. He knows. It's incredible. Jeff, thank you for the call. It's always nice to hear from you. And thank you for being with us today. Hey, special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethercutt, Patrick Coy, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jay LeBlanc, Al Gorilla Rhythm, Jeremy Peterson, Connor Arroyo, Carna Verdi, Martha Salinas, and Mateo Robertson, all the great people who work on this program. And thank you to you for being with us. Get out there, get active, tag You're It. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
It is the last day of the pledge drive. As I mentioned yesterday, we hit our 50% mark on Wednesday. We just really need you to step up. This is the last chance. We are way behind. There's a big year coming. We really need Free Speech TV to stay on the air, and this is how we do it. So call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Today is Also a very special day in that our frontline funders, this just extraordinary group of people, Andrew in Bonsall, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Brenda in Texas, Charlene in Houston, Corrine in Kimberly and Sylmar, California, Diana in Santa Rosa, Delaney in Kairos, Missouri, Jerry in Oakland, Jerry in Chandler, Arizona, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado, Mike in Tippecanoe, Indiana, County, Indiana, Natasha in Los Angeles, Sheila in Grinnell, Iowa, and Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia. They put together a good pile of money, and they will triple your donation. It's a double, what they call a double match. Yesterday, if you gave $10, it became $20. Today, if you give $10, it becomes $30. Or if you give $1,000, it becomes $3,000. So call now or go to Free Speech Now. Last chance, triple match. We've got to make this a blowout day. We've got to hit these goals. You can't run a television network when you can't pay for the bills, when you can't pay for the electricity. We've got to do it. So please call now. 877-378-8669 with a $100 gift. You get a plant a tree for reforestation, $200 gift, Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which is the cookie, and my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and more. With a $1,000 gift, all 10 of my hidden history books autographed by the author. But most importantly, we need to keep this network on the air. We are fighting fascism as we head into this next year. No, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And if we're going to fight fascism, we have to look it in the face and we have to take it on. As Franklin Roosevelt told America in 1940, as he was preparing us for what ultimately became our participation in World War II. Here it is.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. But we well know that we cannot escape danger or the fear of it by crawling into bed and pulling the covers over our heads. If Great Britain goes down, the Axis powers will control the continents of Europe and Asia and Africa and Australasia and the high seas. And they will be in a position to bring enormous military and naval resources against this hemisphere. It is no exaggeration to say that all of us in the Americas would be living at the point of a gun loaded with explosive bullets, economic as well as military. The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis. No man can tame a tiger into a kitten by stroking it. There can be no appeasement with ruthlessness. There can be no reasoning with an incendiary bomb. We know now that a nation that can have peace with the Nazis only at the price of total surrender.
So there you go. This is Franklin Roosevelt telling us this is how you deal with fascists, right? You take them on. You kick them upside the head. You fight. You talk back. You rally people together. And that's going to be our work in the next 4 years. And it's going to be a heck of a lot of work. And we need your help to make it happen. We need your help to keep this network on the air, to keep this program on this network. If we don't hit these goals, it's going to be not a good thing, shall we say. And so please call now. Of course, there are premiums for your gifts. Also, in addition to a one-time gift, which will get tripled essentially, or like I said, your $100 becomes $300. In addition to that, we have the ability to give monthly gifts, to make an ongoing monthly, to be a sustaining supporter, a monthly donor. And again, that need not be a large amount of money, but just the fact that it's monthly is a big deal to Free Speech TV, to the management of Free Speech TV, because then they can budget. I mean, if you have no idea what money you have coming in, you know, if your Social Security check or your paycheck were to change from month to month just randomly, how would you budget anything in your household? Well, it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with a nonprofit like Free Speech TV. And because we so heavily rely on your contributions, please now go to freespeech.org and make your contribution, or call 877-378-8669 and make your donation now. It's needed. Thank you very much for listening.